I tried. Excuse me. I tried to I practiced so many times. There we go. It's Saturn. So I did make the last video unlisted just because I don't know. I feel like, and I've said it before, I feel like a lot of times there are these threads that sort of run, right? Which makes sense, especially if I don't sit down with much of a preset intention besides, let's see what happens. Let's just go with the flow. Going with the flow is an intention. I guess I should recognize that first and foremost, but at the same time, it's good to be a little bit more directed sometimes. But anyway, so my Saturn return is more and more direct by the day. And I don't know if it was I'm pretty sure it wasn't, but it might have been in the video. Was it? Yeah, it was. I might make it unlisted. I might make it public again. Because I talked about how, well, it was, yeah, it's fine. I'll just make it public. Um, it was a lot of my journey stuff again. And being in this Saturn return, so 2019, January, well, October, November 2018, I had my darkest night. I'm like, gotta do everything. I have to literally do everything. 2019, I started doing the everything. Late-ish, mid to late-ish 2019, I hear about Saturn returns. And I'm like 26 question mark in 2019. Yeah, I'm 26 in 2019. And I'm like, oh, I still have some time. So, and I'm being intentional and direct with this journey, with this healing, with this process. And so I was feeling like, by the time my Saturn return came around, Saturn would be giving me something rather than taking me through the mud, because I was going through the mud, right? And so far it's been my experience, but I guess I didn't necessarily realize some of the stuff that I'm still carrying, question mark. And that's something that happened yesterday? And so I'm just like, wow. And how much of this is the collective energies that we're in right now, how everything's crazy. How much of it is that I'm going through a Saturn return right now and everything is crazy. Is it both? Is it either? Is it neither? I don't know. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was in the video I made unlisted, but I was just talking about no, because I went live in the morning. So it wasn't. And then I came back and I went live at night. So I'll just leave that unlisted. You didn't miss anything if you missed it. Don't be like, oh, I missed it. And if you get notifications, then the notification will still take you to the video. If you like the video, it'll still take you to the video because it's just unlisted. It's not private. But it's been this interesting, again, I said it before, I'll say it again. I'm glad that I chose to work through every challenge that's come my way since, honestly, last August, instead of running away. When I was like, oh, let me just put my resume on Indeed. That was an inkling I got within a week of putting my resume on Indeed. I got the thing that was like, hey, someone's hiring local, and I was like, local? Ooh, I kind of wanted to move. I kind of wanted to go somewhere. And then it was like, well, it's just an interview. It's just this. It's just that. And then when it came time to do to actually start working, I was like, oh snap! It was slightly beyond my comfort level, but close enough to my comfort level that I can make this step. Even if it felt like a leap at sometimes, I can make this step. outside of my comfort level. And it just kept building and building. But through all of those experiences, again, it was so much of like, you're not who you used to be. And I'm using the overhead light today. So that's why, it's a little shadowy up here, but that's fine. It was a lot of like, you're not who you used to be. It was a lot of couraging and braving. And it was a lot of, I want to say affirmations, but it was a lot of like affirming, like self affirming and in others affirming things. And so I thought, I've been overcoming challenge, excuse me, from the beginning. But again, I feel like that's how it is, because anything that Saturn would have to give me. And I think that's what I would realize in pockets and moments. I would realize in specific moments, but I wouldn't necessarily realize over the entirety of the last year of my life, basically. Or almost. My golden year was golden. I love my golden year anyway. Um, is that a lot of the things I wanted, as I was, I don't know if I would have allowed myself to receive. And like I said yesterday morning, I'm sure, and not yesterday evening, um, into this morning, it feels like the only boundaries, restrictions, and limitations that are on me right now in my Saturn return are self imposed. And there's so much of things that I want and things that I didn't even necessarily know that I want, and things that I didn't necessarily. It's not that I guess I didn't have the thought. I don't know. Um, of like getting or receiving, and it's there. It just requires me to like be brave, and it reminds me. I remember, um, was that what year was that? 26? No, because I was in our 20. Yeah, maybe. No, no, no. Well, maybe it was like either 2015 or 2016 at the height of my not depression, because it got worse. Um, but right before I sort of hit a turn for the better, I guess. There was a person who would sing, I want to see you be brave at me. And then when she sang it at me, somebody else joined in and they both sang it at me. And it was one of the most encouraging things that someone's ever done for me. And it was also something that I was not wanting at the time. And I was very much of the mind like, sometimes we face challenges and difficulties in life, and it's not like we ask for them. So anyone who finds themselves in a certain situation that they didn't ask to be in, it's like, okay, well, you can either keep living your life or you can alter things. And it reminds me, I was talking to Russ the other night about Toulouse and how he created and how he did so much in his limited, or not limited, well, in his not that long of a life. And Russ was talking about how he sort of like resigned himself to his fate, but he resigned himself to his fate in a way that is very like, let me take advantage of every moment and every opportunity, and let me get as much out of life as I can while I have a life to live in this incarnation. Instead of that nihilistic, like nothing matters, I'm not going to be here that long, and like just being in misery until the day comes. And at the time, I was very much like, no. It's like, we're not giving anything that we can't handle. And there are people who have it worse than you who overcome. And I'm like, good for them. But this sucks. And I don't want to do this. um, I just wasn't at a point to be brave or to want more or to do anything but be hopeless and feel helpless and miserable. I had pockets of joy though, through the wonderful people that I had in my life. But when it came to the future that I couldn't see, yeah, that was yesterday morning because I titled it. No, that was the first. Yesterday was Saturday. So when I'm talking about yesterday, I mean the day before yesterday. Because yesterday was Saturday. Today is Sunday. I'm thinking of Friday. And the living in the blank spot, right? Yeah, I did. I left it up because I titled it Living in the Blank Spot and it's still up. And how I'm working through so many like self limitations and restrictions, and also at the same time being encouraged to, in one of the most, not one of the most uncomfortably loving ways, because it's not extremely uncomfortable. And whenever I think about it, it's like there's no reason to be nervous, there's no reason to be anything. And that's what makes it. That was the cleaning house. Oh my gosh, that's what I was talking about. That was the cleaning house and the deep freeze, because it's just cleaning house. It's changing the narrative in a way of like actually changing the narrative. It's like if it were a choose your own adventure story, then we change that narrative by being presented with similar things but choosing the other thing. And so it's more that than attachment to anything that I felt in the past. And the more I've done throughout the years, the less I'm attached to things of the past, and the more I'm attached to the future unknown blank spot because of the things that I've already sort of worked through, because of the resolutions and healings that I've already felt and experienced. I'm like, yeah, more of that, less of the old garbage that kept me stuck in the mud in that deep freeze, dry desert place that was just full of a sad embrace. The genius loci of that space was the sad embrace and everything. And so, yeah, that's where I still am. My Saturn return goes direct here within a few weeks. I think my Saturn return will be direct on the 16th, on the day that Jupiter and Neptune are conjuncting. And I just had a friend reach out to me out of the blue that I haven't really talked to in years. That was like, hey, I'm close to you. You want to like meet up, get lunch, and like catch up? And I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, let's do the 16th. Ooh. 2320. I think I'm 23. It's either the 16th, it might be the 17th. It's between the 16th and the 17th when that conjunction is exact. Because on the 16th at 10:47 a.m. Central Time. No, Jupiter's already past Neptune. Hold up. Yeah. Oh, snap. Hold up. According to my little astrology app, the conjunction is going to be exact on April 12th. Both Neptune and Jupiter are 23 degrees 59 minutes, but Jupiter's already like barely overtaken Neptune at that point. So they're still going to be within a degree orb, because on the 16th, Neptune is 24. I mean, they're both 24 degrees of Pisces, but Neptune is like 24 degrees 7 minutes at 10:47 a.m. Central Time. Neptune's 24 degrees 7 minutes. Jupiter's 24 degrees 53 minutes. So Jupiter's like entering the 25th degree, and Neptune is still fairly early, very early in the 24th degree. And then Mars and Venus are also both going to be in Pisces as that's happening. Oh, me and my little Saturn return. Oh, it'll be over. Not over. It'll be 0.2 degrees separating my Saturn return. So these are my conjunctions. Mercury is going to be, well, okay, I'll just read down the list, I guess. So Mercury is going to be separating from my rising. Venus is going to be separating from my sun, 2 degrees. Neptune is going to be 0.7 degrees separating from my Mercury. Saturn is going to be 0.2 degrees separating from my Saturn. Neptune is going to be 0.1 degrees applying to my Mercury. So, like, the transiting Neptune is like hitting my Mercury as Jupiter is like leaving. So Mercury is my Mercury in Pisces is right on that sweet spot, apparently. And then the South Node is going to be separating from my Pluto. Okay. Anyway, so it'd be 0.2 degrees. Which again, it's like it feels like it's it's almost this energy of like for me to have all that I want and all that I truly desire, I got to be in a space to like accept it. You know what I mean? Which informs a lot of what I do. Well, I feel like that's the way it is, though, sometimes. A lot of times when we truly wish and desire for something, especially if we've experienced not a lot of that thing, there are, it's the Three of Swords in the Wild Unknown Tarot. It's like it's because of past hurt, pain, heartbreak, disappointment, ostracization, being ostracized and isolated. It's like that Three of Swords is like a Ten of Swords, Ten of Wands, Five of Cups, Five of Pentacles, all rolled into one. It's like all that accompanies a Three of Swords energy keeps us, or it makes it more difficult to enter those spaces that we've experienced pain in before or whatever. So that's on my mind. Also, I'll just timestamp it. Um, I remembered, or I was thinking about. I think about not too often, but every now and then, not frequently at all. I was doing a reading one time, and I had somebody who I'm pretty sure won't mind if I share this. Somebody reached out to me afterward and was like, "It was so gorgeous that like I wanted to raise everybody up to that level, but then I got like shut down, like I had a slap on the wrist by some energy." And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably pretty much like that's me." But it's because like more than I want and wish and desire for everyone to get all the things that they want, I want for people to be able to accept it and to make it their life rather than for it to be another like I had this opportunity and for this reason or that reason it's gone and now I'm going to feel bad and I'm going to direct all the stuff against me because like how why couldn't I see that at the time it was this and how could I let it go and blah 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 whatever. Like there's nothing good in the world and everything that is good I mess up. But I think also too, it's just that like some things they it just requires something of us that if we're not ready to give, then it won't come about. So it's like it doesn't matter if you get the opportunity if you're not yet who you need to be to shine in that space or to allow yourself to be unfettered, unrestricted, unrestrained in that space. To do the thing that you do that brings about whatever the thing is. You know what I mean? And I think sometimes that can be a danger of the short sightedness of the human experience. It's like we don't necessarily, and it's not, it kind of sort of is the devil's in the details energy, but it's just that like when we're only focused on getting the thing, it's like getting a pet, right? And then you realize that like you got to feed it, you got to care for it. It's something that requires something of you to have. It's not just like a rock. And even a rock, it's like if you set it out in the sun, it might get sun bleached or, people take care. I'm not calling crystals rocks, but they all come from the earth. You got to take care of crystals. And even though it's like it could be, even if it's inanimate, it still requires something. Like it might get dusty, so you dust it off or you clean it every now and then. You know what I mean? And so it's almost like, well, what's the point of putting someone in a space that they're not yet ready for? So I figured that today I would try to read a little differently. So I don't know what deck I'm going to start with. I guess I'll just start somewhere. I'll use the vice verses because I was thinking of the Ten of Swords earlier. And I was like, because the Ten of Swords is one of my favorite cards. But if I could illustrate the Ten of Swords, I would illustrate it as like there's the body on the ground with the 10 swords, but then there's the person outside of the body moving forward. And the closest I've seen to that is the Ten of Swords and the Vice Versa Tarot. And so I'm going to use the Vice Versa, I guess. And instead of only, I'm going to pick up a Russillian trick. Instead of only going down the path of like, this is gorgeous energy, but like, I feel like it could be blocked by this, and that. I'm gonna see if I can feel for the energy to, I guess, like get out of the trap, or to for us to get out of our own way. Because sometimes I guess it does help to have that branch extended when you're in the pits and sinking, right? For you to like pull yourself up, it's the way out. That staircase, that hallelujah moment. So I did not pull anything out beforehand. And if you thought I did, then you believe in me. I do sometimes. I was gonna say if you thought I'd prepared at all before any of this, then you're new. But last time I pulled all the cards before, so it happens sometimes if I can get it. And then we'll see. We'll see. I'm gonna timestamp this real quick though. Life return. Oof. Well, yeah, let's do it. Life return ramble. I was gonna do Saturn return ramble and then just like life ramble, but I'll do a life return ramble because I do feel like the life is coming back to me. I'll timestamp it for 25 minutes in a way that, and that's interesting because I did a full reading, like a read for myself for this year with a friend, with my journey buddy. Um, And the Six of Cups was one of the cards that came out, and at the time it felt like, I feel like trauma isn't the word. I feel like trauma carries more weight. Well, in some ways it was trauma. In other ways it was just like patterns. I feel like the word patterns carries less weight than trauma. Uh, Traumas and patterns from childhood or from the early days that would sort of come back, but also at the same time, I want to say it was like outer child work. And I want to say outer child work because, well, I want to say it because of my ego. Um, but I feel like I did a fair amount of inner child work. And I felt like it was like spaces where that sort of energy could come out or be more allowed or whatever. But outer child work in the sense of like being more of that. Or it's like I guess there's like the inner child work that's the healing part of it. And then there's the inner child work that's the being part of it. And I feel like I did a lot of the healing part of it, but then it was time to be in the being part of it. And then the being part of it again is that space where we're rewriting the personal narrative by making different choices and decisions. Instead of making choices and decisions from the space of the hurt child, it's making choices and decisions from the space of the healed one. And so I feel like in a lot of ways, I'm coming back to a lot of who I was when I was younger. And that's the life return for me in particular. But the Six of Cups was like the first card that came out. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm going to be triggered on some like a deep levels because some of these things run deep. But also, what I didn't necessarily see at the time was that yes, that was the case, but because of that, and depending on how I handled that, which could have gone either way, um, then it would be the return of that childhood zest for me, and that like desire to get to know and to connect with people, more extroversion, less isolated introversion. Uh, so there's no more fuss and there's no more seeds in my garden. God, you see my nectarines. And I'm telling you this, and I tell kings and queens, don't ever, ever, ever mess around with my greens, especially the beans. Okay. Life has just been so. It honestly feels like there's this major point in life. Like it feels like there's a lot that's been sort of like wrapped up internally. But at the same time, so many things haven't even yet begun. Ooh. Okay, so I'm gonna change this to 29. Excuse me. So let's see. This whole thing is just a ramble. Just a ramble. Just another ramble. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna fix the spelling. And, so I'm gonna show you the Ten of Swords in this deck, and then we're gonna use it, I guess. Because if I could illustrate the Ten of Swords, I'd do something like this, but I would take it a step further, or a few steps further, to symbolize that, like, the old self that's sort of left behind. And then I would kind of sort of have it, like, if I could, it's like one way where it's like, where's the focus? One of them would be more defined, or one would be like more faded or shrouded than the other. where it's like, is it what we're coming into that's more defined, or maybe I just make it ambiguous in some way, where the I and the intuition determines? Is the focus on the closing and the dying, or is the focus on the forward momentum and the rebirth, the forward momentum after the rebirth? But let's see. I'm gonna do an all signs, cause why not? Cause why not? Where is this card? Excuse me. I looked through all of these and I did not see it. So I'm gonna split the deck in half. I'm gonna split the deck in fourths. I'm gonna samurai cut it. And then we're gonna look again. That's the 10 of Wands. It's not over here. Oof. Title card. Oh, the lamp isn't on. So, hey Siri, we're live. There you go. The title card. Prophecies. Three of Swords with the back of the Queen of Swords. Or is that the King? I get confused between the King and the Queen in this deck. I'm pretty sure that's the Queen, but I don't know. She icy because of all the things that, if I were her, I'd say icy. Here it is. Ooh. I'm actually going to take all of these. And this one. I'm going to take all of these. I'm going to take a lot of these. Oh, snap. Hold up. Where did y'all come from? Hold on. That's too much. That's too much. That's too much. We'll start here. We'll start here. Oh, snap. Shout out to the Seven of Cups in the Mystical Dreams Tarot with the white obelisk. The white obelisk that separated the feminine and masculine, the child of the feminine and masculine, that because it's a product of the both of them can see on both sides. And then you see the guardians in the back rising out of the waters, the Eye of Ra on that obelisk. I mean, it's one of the eyes. I think there are two eyes. I don't know if it's Ra or Horus or whatever they are. That's a wall. That's a wall. I've always thought it was like water. I thought that was like a body of water, and then these giant guardians coming out of the back, and then there's a mountain. No, that's a wall. And you know what I love about this sun card energy that's coming out with the wall? It's because I feel like it's very what I'm talking about. That's the Aksunare. And the Aksunare is that brilliant dawn. It's the bright dawn. It's light finding us in the space where there was only darkness before. But because there was so much darkness in that space, there's an equally proportional amount of sensitivity to the light, where like we recoil from it because it's too bright. You know what I mean? Potentially. Here's the other side of the sun card for reference. But that's the thing about the vice versa. It's like this is the sun card from the perspective that we typically see. This is the sun card from the other side, right? Like if you're in front, if you're behind the kid and the horse, then you'd see the sun. If you're in front of the kid and the horse, you'd see the obelisk. And maybe it is the Eye of Ra, because Ra was the sun god, right? But then there's the wall with the sentries on it. And then after that, it's the Two of Pentacles. which carries, again, it's an energy of those who stand on platforms above. If you can see them, see the people up there. Not me. Don't focus on me. Yeah, you can see the people there. They are. After that is the Knight of Swords. And so I'm going to continue on the vein of maybe this is going to be heavily influenced by personal experience, as a lot of the things that I do, but I try to be able to separate myself sometimes. Most of the time. I realize that I probably can't do it 100% because, I'm a person. But more often than not, I do try. Now, if I'm like interjecting my own, then I'll say, like, I personally think, feel, believe, have experienced XYZ. But if that don't resonate for you, then don't force it to. You know what I mean? But because the sun is the sun, it's almost like how many times has the energy of Phanuel, Angel of Truth, came out? Because they carry an energy, because it's a wall, it carries an energy of sentries, guardians, things that will keep you from getting to this sun card energy. It's like the horse has taken you as far as it can take you. Now you have to make the rest of the journey yourself. Um, but it's almost like it feels like instead of standing guard, they're standing watch to welcome. It's like, we've received word of your arrival. We've received word of your coming. So we're looking for you because we know you're coming. And it feels like a Six of Wands energy, but it's a Six of Wands energy before you actually make it into town where everyone else is there. Like it's the early, it's the early in the welcoming party type of energy. And like with this Two of Pentacles, even though it kind of reads as they're leaving, it's the back of a lot of cards. The back of the Magician is here too, before the Sun. And the Ace of Cups, the back of the Ace of Cups is here before the Magician, with the back of the Fool and the back of the Page of Swords and the back of this Knight of Wands and the back of the Queen of Swords. The back of the Three of Swords. Like, the first three decks are the backs from right to left. So I guess the last three, because typically I'm used to reading left to right. You see that person? That's our knight. Oh my gosh. The back of the Three of Swords, the back of the Queen of Swords, horse butt on the back of the Knight of Wands, the back of the Page of Swords, the back of the Fool, the back of the Magician. No, the back of the Ace of Cups, and then the back of the Magician. This is a different perspective. Interesting. I've used this deck not super frequently. I've used this deck enough. I've never noticed this. I've never noticed this figure front and center on this card, but we'll get there. See, this is weird. You could have stayed. I mean, I picked up the rest of the deck, or this quarter of a deck. Because everything is, it feels like the sentries, the guardians at the top of the tower. It feels like we're looking at everything from their perspective. It feels like it's looking at things through the eyes of spirit. Or actually, no, because of the intention behind this. Let me find, but it wasn't the face of the Ten of Swords that I'm used to. Let me see if I can abridge this. So basically, there's this feeling that in order for us to get that sun card energy that we know as sun card energy, there are choices and decisions that we have to make. This is us, and look how balanced those pentacles are. Whenever I see a two of pentacles, I look to see how out of balance they are. Like, is one like way above the other one? Are they fairly in line? You know what I mean? That's what I look at when I look at a two of pentacles. When I look at the ace of swords, if it's an ace of swords with a crown and a sword, I look at how close to the hilt that sword is, or how close to the hilt the crown is. Because sometimes the crown is like way close to the part where you grip the sword. Sometimes the crown is at the tip of the sword. Sometimes it's not even on the sword. And the grip on the sword is where we hold it. And so I use that as like how much of this is like, how easy it would be for us to grab. Because if it's at the tip of the sword and we're holding the sword all the way down here, it's like, you know, it's like, is it one of these, or is it one of these, or is it one like a, oh, I get it, okay, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's because of the choices and decisions that we find ourselves on that yellow brick road. And this, it's the energies, like that's the spiritual energy of the guides, the ancestors, anything in the non-tangible realm that is like awaiting your arrival with eager anticipation. This is a material energy. It's like the people that you'll meet, and you know, the friends and family, anyone who would support you, because not all friends and families are supportive. It's like they're waiting for you. And then the Knight of Swords, it's like, because that was the thing with the Page of Swords, right? With the Page of Swords, you can see how the Knight of Wands right before it. This is going to be one of those, like when I did the Futurist Sentinel in the Covert Technician, it's one of those like time warpy things. And I'm trying to get to it if I can. If you know me, you know that this may take 3 hours for me to get like 5 cards down. But it's like in the Knight of Wands, after this icy Queen of Swords, because of the Three of Swords, we have this Knight of Wands, right? And that's the storm at night. Now, in the Page of Swords, right after that, we can see the storm kind of sort of clearing. But as the storm clears, we're plunged back into the dark. This is the other side of the Fool. We ain't get that side. But again, the sky is clear. It's darker than the Page of Swords, but the sky is a lot clearer. You can see the stars, you can see the shooting star. Maybe the shooting star is guiding you to something somewhere. Maybe you're going to find where it lands. Maybe the space where the shooting star lands, this Ace of Cups is like there. The back of the Ace of Cups, that whole fountain. Oh, and look, there's a person that's found the fountain. The shooting star has led the person to the Ace of Cups. Okay, like it, love it. Great, gorgeous. And that's when we come to the Magician. with that Ace of Cups right at his side, or her side, their side, right at their side. But what I was looking at is these two, the Page and the Knight of Swords. The birds are sort of like showing the way. And so maybe it kind of sort of is a both energy. I'm trying to keep these in order. This goes here. This goes here. These come here. Because again, it's like there's the people on this new path. And then there's the spiritual, the subtle, and the energetic. The birds are leading us through the storm. It's not even really stormy anymore, though. Is this horse flying? Is that the flying card flying above the maze? I didn't even notice that. Did the is this Hercules? Is this Disney? Go watch Disney's Hercules. Go watch Disney's Hercules to know about the hero that experienced the Three of Swords isolation and ostracization because of the strength that he had. He ain't know who he was. He ain't know who he descended from. He thought his daddy and his mama was some old farmers. And then one day they had to be like, hey, listen, we old, boy. We too old to have a son as young as you. You know, her anatomy don't work that way no more. Well, maybe it could, because back in the olden days and biblical times, people lived a lot longer and was still having kids. Sarah, was that Sarah, Abraham's wife? Anyway, I feel like that's the same horse. Like how when for his birthday he got Pegasus, and then after he discovers who he is, he goes to the temple of Zeus, and Zeus is like, "Hey, like this is what happened, and this is why life has why life has been hard for you, and this is why life is gonna it's gonna come with more challenges, but you can acquire the strength to overcome them so that one day you can return home to your rightful place. But it's going to require you to do that because now there's something that you have to prove that if there were for no interference, you wouldn't have had to prove. But it's something that he discovers and proves within himself more so than anything. Yes and no. But it's like the horse could only take the child so far, but the horse returns for the full grown individual. And it's also interesting that we get that same kind of cloaky energy. It's a different one, but in the magician. Anyway. And then after that, so after we come into this space of balance, and from this new balance, now we're moving forward. We're flying in areas where we could only walk before, going back to yesterday. I'm pretty sure, I keep saying yesterday, the 332, living in the blank spot. I'm pretty sure that's when, yeah, it was the mountain and then rescue on the other side of the mountain and then flying with movement. It's like now instead of being land bound, we can do land or air. And so it's just like, swamps and sand pits and quicksand and mountains and any terrain that's difficult to navigate by land, by air. We don't have the same restrictions. Now, when it comes to the mountain, it depends because the mountain is big enough to also affect how air moves. But if you ride with the air, you don't have to fight it, right? And so after this, we get off the horse, we come into this new balance, we get back on the horse, and we move with a certain maturity that we didn't have before. We come into the death card. And it's that rebirth, it's the transformation. And the thing that I've never noticed about, and you might be like, how did you not see it? The thing I never noticed about this death card is the woman dancing for Ree. Like, I've never seen her before. Right here, like literally under the whole gosh darn sun. I've never seen her. I've only ever seen like these two, but honestly though, most of the time I saw the death card, it was this side of it. So that's also fair. 9 times out of 10, I saw it, it would be this side. I've never noticed her before. I've always been like, oh, look, it's the zombie dudes, and they're trying to return to life. She has a world card energy. Um, but it's that rebirth. And again, I could see this also reading as, oop, hold up. I made a mistake. I put these cards backwards. There we go. I could see this being like a feminine energy that's in her time in the sun, and now masculine energy is also going to come into its rebirth. I think those pillars are on the moon card, though. Oh, that's Akasunare. This is literally Akasunare. Let me see if it's in a space I've already found. If it's not, I'll have to wait until I come across. Well, I'll have to wait. Yeah, right. I'm gonna Patrick this. Hold up, wait. This was like this. This was at the top. I'm so confused. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know because now everything is the front side. Well, not everything. I was because the title card was at the top. Okay. Hello. What am I doing? Um, I'm pretty sure it was the moon, or it's either the moon or the Hierophant. It's one of those two that has the two pillars. See, there's the world card. She ain't got a ribbon yet, but she already in that energy. It is the moon. Those are the same pillars. So now it's like again, it's that Aksunare. Because the sun is in a place where the most light we could get was the moon. The sun being that brilliant dawn. The sun being that brilliant dawn. Aksunare again being the brilliant or blinding dawn, where the sun rises in a space where there were only dark nights before. Dark nights and darker nights and even darker nights. And it's the rebirth. And it's almost like these two individuals are sacrificing the things that they learned in death. There's something that they learn in death that they take to the crow as they re enter life. There's something that we learn in the dark nights beyond the weighty heaviness of it that we take with us back into life. It's the return, the life return. When I was like gonna do Saturn return ramble, I was like, I'm gonna do Saturn return, just life, because it's kind of sort of beyond that. So I was gonna do instead of Saturn return, I was gonna do life ramble, but then it ended up being life return ramble. So that's why the timestamp says life return. I was like, oh, that fits. That's accurate. I see it. And here it is right here, the life return. And then after that, and that's another interesting thing. After this life return, the rest of the cards are on the front side. It's all backside until so maybe that's what this is. So there's another layer of this. Because it is again, it's the things that we learn in death, the things that we learn in the dark, the things we learn through the dark nights, the things that we learn in shadow that we take with us into life. It's everything that we learned under the soil that we build from when we build into, the light, the seed that germinates. But we understand that in the light, things work differently. Now we have sunlight that we're exposed to. Now there are gases in the air that we have to have openings to allow to come in. There's an exchange that happens. And then there's the sun exchange that we have with spirit, spiritual, energetic, subtle, etheric. And then there's the gas exchange that we have with each other, right? The exchange of air with each other, the exchange of fire with creator, spirit, whatever. And we're coming back with the lovers. But it's the side of the lovers with the angel sort of present. And so that's when it's like this whole time the perspective has been one way, where it's the back of everything again. Everything is like at our backs, like, right, watching us from the back. But when we hit this rebirth, now it's like it flips back to the front. And it's like, and this is the other side, by the way. It's in the light now, more fully. Oh, snap. It's bringing us back to life. It's like, yay, welcome back. See, and then these two pillars, they represent like this feminine, masculine aspect. And I was going to say that that's the child of the two, like in the sun card. Because I was like, with the, hey, Steph, how you doing? With the Seven of Cups in the Mystical Dream Tarot, there's the white obelisk with the feminine and masculine on other sides under the umbrella of the scarab above. But I was like, well, here's the child. So because it's the child of the two, it can see both sides. It doesn't carry as much separation as either or because it's the product of both. Or it could be ancestral, going back to the Adam and Eve days. I don't know. But I feel like these two individuals, or maybe it's these two trees, are symbolic of the two pillars. And again, the angel's like, oh, welcome back to life. You have another chance. Do with it what you will, because it's the lovers, which is usually about, it's about decisions and choices. So, you know, we have the choice, we have the decision. Hello, Suze. I'm doing well today, Steph. Thank you for asking. Check in tomorrow. Check in tomorrow in this upcoming week, because I feel like things are picking up pace. And I'm like, at first I was like, you know what? Let me breathe. Things were a little slower. I feel like maybe not. It's easy. I don't know. Anyway, ask me tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be good. It's just like, I don't know. Because there are things that I want that I've not necessarily had. And so there's a lot of feelings. I'm just like, ugh. But at the same time, I'm not. So, but I'm good. I'm great. Everything is wonderful. Thank you for asking. What's the backside of this? Oh. The next card, it's this side of the Hermit. Again, it's like we can see the face. This angel is coming to, as the angel brings us back to life, it is oof. This is kind of trippy. Let me just keep going this way. Okay. And then, because when I hit the Ten of Swords, we're going to look at all of this again. So, the angel brings us back to life. And then here we are in the Hermit. I feel like, oh, okay. So there's the Orphic egg. The yolk is the fire, the white is the water, the membrane is the air, and the shell is the earth. The shell is the earth, the membrane is the air, the white is the water, the yolk is the fire. The snake is symbolic of life and spirit that wraps and coils and binds it all together. And then there's the hermit. So it feels like this is us navigating our way back out. And the hermit for me, it's like the hermit carries the lantern of the Hierophant up till a certain point. But there are things that the light of the Hierophant can't illuminate within self because it's not designed to. The Hierophant is designed to take us. The Hierophant is designed to take us to the doorway of spirit, and that's it. We make the choice to enter that door and then to commune with spirit more directly. And then when we're in that space, that's where we're guided by our own light. So for me, the hermit's journey is two-part. There's the part that the hermit does with the light of the Hierophant, and then at some point the hermit exchanges the Hierophant's lantern for its own. And with its own light, it goes even deeper. So but it feels like it's navigating out using its own light. So maybe there are going to be parts and places and pieces of things that we've experienced through the light of the Hierophant that now we're going to re-experience through the light of the self, which also lends to this perspective shift. Like at first, everything was behind us. Now it's like looking at us. And then we hit this Ten of Swords. And this is where this stops. Because, I mean, the other two cards, it's the Five of Wands and the Seven of Pentacles. Like, we could go there, maybe, I don't know. Then we hit the Ten of Swords that I was looking for. And it's this side of the Ten of Swords. So, we find our body. And what's interesting about this is, though, like, if it reads as the descent, I guess it's the descent into the underworld, but it's like the journey. But it reads like there was somewhere that we were going, and we didn't realize that, like, we had died at some point. That death sort of being a transformation, but it's like if you're sitting in a space of rebirth, the living aren't reborn. The living aren't brought back to life, just like the dead aren't brought to the door of death. And I feel like maybe that's like it's a detail that's easy to miss. It's like, hold up, wait. How am I coming back if I never went anywhere? Excuse me? Right. But it feels like on his way out, he finds his old self. I guess I should hold it this way to further illustrate it. And then I should put this here. Actually, I think I will keep these. Because of the Five of Wands, this might be an internal, it reads like internal conflict and internal struggle, but it feels like it's an energy of resolving everything that we now know, trust, or believe with everything that we knew, trusted, and believed in before. Because maybe there's something back there that's worth having, or holding on to. Maybe there's nothing and we just leave it all. But this is this space again, like when I was talking about how I said like outer child work, but it's like there's the inner child work that's the healing and the mending and the resolving. And then there's the inner child work that's the being, the living the child. And so it is sort of like two phases of that same energy. I guess that's interesting because it's been a lot of like two phases of the same energy. And I was also talking about yesterday how a lot of my Mercury returns, especially when they were in water signs, when I was more freshly um awake, aware, conscious, whatever, when I was out of my darkest night, I would realize that like early in the Mercury retrograde, there's some level of compassion or understanding that I had to reach or that I had to broaden within myself. And then there would be a situation that would ask for or require that expanded compassion or that loosened tension. And it feels like, again, like that's this part where we're sort of integrating or reintegrating back into the body because it's a new hermit spirit that's going to re-enter the same body. And so that's where that was the patterning. And it's the Five of Wands, it's not the Five of Swords. And so again, like this is the reason why past energy might not feel as heavy as the word trauma, because trauma carries a lot of weightiness to it, but then it becomes more like patterning. It's like more of like, this is what I'm used to doing, this is what I'm used to saying, this is what I'm used to thinking, this is what I'm used to feeling. So if I encounter something similar, then my initial reaction is going to be that thing that I did, said, felt, whatever. But now it's like I don't have to say, feel, do, or think those things anymore because I have this new found whatever that I got whenever this rebirth happened. Like this is the light that the hermit comes back with to bring back to this old body. And I love that, maybe this is the battle that happens within the space of that light. Maybe that's the soul. That's the soul that animates the body. I don't know. But it feels like as this is as we're being sort of like reworked internally, there are going to be things that didn't grow in the past that we just sort of like sat and watched. It's like we did everything we could think to do. We nurtured it, we cared for it in every possible way, but it didn't work. And you want to know why this thing didn't work? It's because it required that growth. You see the skull at the bottom of the tree? Now there's a life force within the soil that's going to give this life. And this is why Persephone needs to stay in the underworld. This is the phase that we continue to experience when we bring Persephone up and down and up and down and up and down. Demeter's like, well, if my daughter's gone, I'm going to let everything die on earth. And it's like, well, okay, well, with her here, ain't nothing much happening. So let her go. Get over it. Move on with your life, girl. How old are you? You supposed to be goddess energy. Get it together. Oof. Don't come for me. Carrie said, Demeter, if you're watching this, don't come for me, girl. Because you know I'm right. I'm just let me I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But in all seriousness, Persephone needs to stay in the underworld. There are things, cycles that cannot begin with her up here, which is why she went down there. And I feel like it's not as bad as we're sort of led to believe it is. Personally, I don't know anybody personally. I don't know these mythological people, these deity pantheon peoples personally. But it's like it feels like her time in the underworld is not the misery that we're led to believe that it is, because of those who decided that, well, we'll give you Persephone for half the year. From my perspective and point, it looks like there is actual love between Hades and Persephone. There's something that Persephone brought to the underworld that released things that were missing, maybe since the gods slew the Titans. I don't know. Because the Greco-Roman gods are notoriously human and extremely self-centered, and only, I mean, Zeus being the leader of all of them, interested in satiating their own desires, and there's no thought or consideration to the lives attached. And then you have Heras, who will punish people who have absolutely no control over what a Zeus does to them because she can't get a handle on her husband. You got Demeter Carys throwing a fit because they can't let their daughters go. And then you got poor Hades down in the underworld, just like trying to do it all by himself. I don't know. That's why it's just like, back to this, that transformation is required to get this thing to grow. Without that rebirth, it won't be. And it's like, again, like below the earth, in the space of that underworld, there's something that's missing. And so that can't, it's like, since that doesn't have it, it doesn't penetrate upwards to the surface to get the plants that grow downward to get it. It's just like that waterbed, right? The roots go down and down and down until they touch that waterbed or whatever. But the waterbed is dry because we're not caring for the flip side. And so instead of this being it's almost like, instead of it being a front back perspective shift, it's like an up down perspective shift. There are things that we need to do within the depths of us. That's where the hermit is, right? That need to be taken care of, that need to be addressed, so that the light of us can continue to grow upward, so that the light of us can continue to expand, and so that the light of us has everything that it needs to make sure that this growth is happening. Oof, didn't necessarily. What, you did a Virgo reading and then Virgo will do it. Virgo's done it to me. When I did that Virgo reading and my mic was muted, it was about writing a letter to your inner child. What would you say to that inner child? Oh, that's beautiful. So the reason why I went looking for this card is because of this side. We see the person outside of the body. This is how I would illustrate, and I don't have to, well, if I illustrated the Ten of Swords, there would be movement. Like, that person would be walking, and then the body would be back here, rather than just sitting and contemplating in the space of the eclipse. But this is why the Ten of Swords is one of my favorite cards. It's not because of the getting stabbed in the back heaviness, it's because of what happens after. We're free of the thing that we couldn't escape in the Eight of Swords, that we couldn't mentally wrap our heads around how we would get out of. It's like, it was entrapment in the Eight of Swords, it's a hopelessness and helplessness in the Nine of Swords. But the Ten of Swords is like, it's putting that to bed. It's done. How do we move forward? And the reason why I said this was interesting, because at the top of this pile, and I didn't notice it until I went and looked again, we have that same person. Okay, they're illustrated differently, but it's the same person. So this is the dark night. This is the darkest night. This is our journey within ourselves, and we get to relearn and revisit and re-witness ourselves every step of the way. So the person looking at us from our back from the very beginning. It's us. And so that's why I was like, oh, there's this like weird time, whatever. But I feels like there are so many different sort of things or energies or people watching the front and the back. It's almost a Christmas carol with the ghosts of Christmas, past, present, and future. And it makes me think of Muriel, Angel of Cancer, in the year two, about how as we grow, it's important to protect ourselves, but it's equally as important for us to be vulnerable and to allow people into our lives. And so it's to not be so protected that we sort of choke, strangle, and isolate, silt up that river, that flow. But it's not to be so open that we are over flooding and we're overflowing and flooding areas that aren't capable of holding water. It's like it might need water, but if it needs water too badly, and if you put too much water on it too quickly, the earth isn't going to be able to soak it up that fast and things are going to flood. And maybe too, this is the space where we realize after we make this sort of flip, this is the space where we realize the things that we weren't doing, the things that we weren't giving, the ways that at the time it was beyond us to care for something. And maybe that's why there were certain things that never got past a certain level in their development. But again, it's like, and I did that. It was the Greco-Roman pantheon versus the Norse pantheon. In the Norse pantheon, the gods and goddesses didn't have a choice as to whether or not Ragnarok occurred. In the Greco-Roman pantheon, Demeter is like, I don't want to let my daughter go. And they're like, okay, well, here, half of the year. But without that Fimbulvinter, without that Ragnarok, all that came after never happens. And so the Greco Roman pantheon is stuck. It just loops and cycles infinitely on repeat. And we use it to explain the seasons, and seasons are things that we always experience. So that's how it's supposed to be. Well, it's like, well, and the Norse is not the same. Like, you know, and I think on a more human level, in a more human way, it goes back to ego, but it goes back to ego in the sense of identity. How when we become a parent, especially, well, I'll just say a parent, when we become a parent, that becomes so much of, I'm not a parent, so this is all speculation and hypothesis on my part. Yet, um, like that becomes so much of our identity as a parent because it requires so much of us to be a parent. But it's like a parent isn't all that you are. But for some people, like mother or father is so ingrained and core to their identity that they won't let their children go. And because they don't let their children grow, because they don't let their children go, in some ways they don't let their children grow. And because they don't let their children grow, they also simultaneously at the same time don't let themselves grow into anything beyond how they've always seen themselves. And so like there's very real emotion and all kinds of stuff behind why Ceres can't let Persephone go live her life with her husband. It's like, oh, but like think of this and think of that. Like he's like, it's the underworld, ill. Like who would want to be there? Like, no, you're suffering, you're miserable. He did this to you. And she's like, no, I'm not. I'm happy. But she can't get that. Because if she lets her daughter go, what else does she have? Who is she if she's not a mother? You know what I mean? And taking the mother aspect out of it, I think sometimes even too, maybe there's a trauma bond that we can have with ourselves. Maybe we overly relate to our trauma in a way where it's like, who are we if we're not the worst things that happen to us? Like without those things to define us, then what else is there? And again, it's like it makes sense if that was something that impacted your life in so many ways. If that's something that you've struggled with, or not even struggled with, but if that's something that you've had to learn to live around and something that you've had to learn to live in spite of. But it's like if you can live outside of that thing, if you can if you can live in spite of that thing, and if you're doing that, then why do you need to carry it? It's very much like, people will be like, if you move and there's a box of stuff that you don't unpack for years, then do you really need the stuff? You can just let it go. Like if you haven't used it in a few years, if you're not in need of it, then you're probably fine without it. And that's a level of attachment that at least, because again, like I'm going through a Saturn return right now. I'm experiencing many things in my personal life, so I don't feel comfortable talking about anything as a collective energy because I don't know what's happening. Is it because I'm going through a Saturn return, or is it collective energy? Who knows? I don't know. But in my experience, this is a lot of what I'm experiencing. Not necessarily that heavy, because like I said, once a certain amount of that healing has been done, a lot of the weight is lifted, but the patterns and the knee jerk responses are still there. Because that's the way that I'm used to just like being. Oh, I'm presented with an opportunity to do something. Like, let me find an excuse to not do it, no matter how much I want to go. And I kind of did that Friday. And then I was like, hold up, no, wait. And then I'm running. I'm like, let me send this text. Like, I'll come after work if you're still there. I'm like, oh, yeah, sorry. Like, we're gone. I'm like, no. But it's fine. The Six of Swords and the Ten of Swords, interesting. Six of Swords came out, the Ten of Swords was at the top. This is how I would illustrate the Ten of Swords. There's the body, but it's like we're moving on. I would illustrate it like this. It's the movement after. Because tens, while about endings, are also about beginnings. And it feels like in a lot of traditional depictions of the Ten of Swords, it's hard to see the beginning. It's like the Ten of Swords and Ten of Wands feel like energies that are mostly focused on ending and closing out, while the Ten of Cups and the Ten of Pentacles is like happily ever after energy. But both are on the precipice as tens. And I would just bring that element back to the card if I could. That's what all of this is about. Which is, I guess, that's why it makes sense why it was such a like an underworld death sort of dark energy with all the dark skies, rather than being in the light. But again, a lot of this, it's the things that we do in the dark. It's the things that we do within ourselves that allow us to be who we are in the light. It's the healing that occurs before the being in the embodying. but mostly the being. I like be more than embody. Because embody, for me, the word embody carries a foreign connotation to it. It's like to embody something is to bring something from outside of the body into the body. But being carries a connotation that's like from the inside out. Like, this is who I am at my core. Now, this is who you see on the outside. Rather than embodying, again, being like, this is something outside of me that I'm pulling into me. This is a character. This is a role that I am playing. I'm acting. And I know that it's not necessarily that, but that's the thing about connotations, right? Insert hypocrisy here. Because this is all about letting go of the connotation. And it does, honestly, like the whole Persephone, Demeter, Hades thing, in the weirdest way, it makes me think of third partying. So there's an Amazon on Staten Island, in Staten Island, question mark. It's the first unionized, organized, whatever. They won the bid for the union or something. And I have a friend that's all about unionizing and like labor equality and stuff like that. All about it. So I sent it to him. And then I saw Amazon's statement and I sent that to him. And Amazon's statement was like, we're disappointed at how things worked out today. We'd prefer a more personal relationship with our employees. And there was some interference that shouldn't have been allowed and blah, 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 whatever. And my friend was like, that's third partying. And I was like, what? And he was like, third partying is when they make the union, the labor union that is built of and composed of and comprised of people who work there, and maybe with some assistance to resources outside, but it's mostly people who work there advocating to make conditions more fair and favorable for people who work there. So it's not some outside entity that's like coming in to do this. It's just an organization within. And when they say that they prefer a more personal relationship, what they're actually saying is they want to be able to, on an individual basis, tell somebody what's happening rather than to allow people to come together, because then they'll get the truth. It's like, what? They told you this, but they told me this other thing. So what's the truth? It's like when we come together, we're stronger and less gullible and less easy to manipulate. Well, that's debatable, but in theory, when we come together, we're stronger and less gullible, less easy to manipulate than when we are apart. Because when we're apart, we all hear different things, and nobody's necessarily talking to the other people. And then it's like, oh, well, like, that must have been a miscommunication. I must have miscommunicated. It must have been a misunderstanding. What I meant was this thing. If you do approach them like, hey, well, somebody else heard something different. And that's kind of sort of what that energy felt like in a way. In a way, I'm not going to say completely, where it's like, I don't know. For some reason, with me, the myth of Persephone just never sat with how it was told, because love is not something that can be forced. If Persephone didn't want to be in the underworld, if Persephone didn't love Hades, there would be no pomegranates. Nothing would grow in the underworld if she didn't like being in the underworld. Growth cannot be forced. Love cannot be forced. So it's like, make it make sense, Zeus. Make it make sense, Ceres, Demeter. Because if she was stolen, like, I don't think that's how this works. But then she's like, well, that's what we'll tell the mortals. That is why they experience winter. What if the real reason why we experienced winter was because Persephone wasn't in the underworld to make sure that, the underworld gets what it needs to fertilize and provide nutrients for everything on the living side, because there is a balance in that life-death cycle. Winter is the time when Persephone's with her mom. Oof. Let me let it go. Let me move on. Yeah, but Demeter will tell you, oh, like, no, spring is when she's with me. Yeah, when she's with me, it's spring. And then, we go into summer. It's like, no, girl, I don't know. Because I know how Earth works. And with Earth, it's equally as important the things that happen beneath and below the surface than the things that happen above the surface. Because you can give a plant all of the light and all of the gas, all of the carbon dioxide it needs. But if you're not taking care of that soil, that plant's going to die. And, the daylight is shorter in the winter. So, whatever. Semantics. That's why it's easy to believe. Yes. Oof. So, we have this rebirth card again. I told you, Persephone is happy in the underworld. When Persephone is in the underworld, the light is there. And when the light is in the underworld, things can come back to life. Things can be revitalized. Things can grow after their stage of dormancy. And the other card that came out is the Ace of Swords. So, I don't know. And then we have the King of Swords, the back of the King of Swords with the back of the Page of Swords. And the Three of Cups. This is interesting, though. Because this whole thing has been about, not the whole thing, there was a thread of this that was about navigating the storm, specifically through the Page of Swords and the back of the Knight of Swords. But from this vantage point and perspective, it feels like the King of Swords is the one that's actually directing the storm. So it does carry a Jupiterian, Zeusian energy because of that. And then there's this scythe, the sickle that represents death. And so that complete, is that the title card? The Four of Swords in the title card with the Ten of Swords. I love the title card in here because there's the Eclipse, there's the Old Man, there's the other side of these cards. Oof. He was he slept in. You see all that destruction that's happening outside? He asleep. He's just asleep. He just keeps sleeping throughout every phase, throughout every cycle. It's the energy that's just like not even here. He's like, I'm like, just, I was like, wake up. And it does almost, this does almost carry that energy of distraction in a way. No, you're fine, Steph. I was gonna say this could metaphorically work for how I put these on. That's the one thing about these cards being double-sided. Like, what's the top? What's the bottom? Um, there was a metaphor of self. It's like self-manipulation. How we manipulate ourselves to see and view things in a certain way in order to be more comfortable with whatever. And it doesn't necessarily have to be extremely malicious. It's just a thing that we do, or a thing that we can do, where we pull that Neptunian fog veil over our own eyes so that we can see things the way that we need to be more comfortable with whatever we see or we do. And again, it feels like it's that energy of illusion again. It's maybe I'll go looking for that, even though I should be done. It's the energy of the well crafted illusion. But the thing about the well crafted illusion is that it's not a good illusion. The well crafted illusion, it's only well crafted for specific people because it plays on what we already believe, it plays on what we already think, it plays on our fears, it plays on insecurities, it plays on anxieties, it plays on what we want to see. And because it's something that we want to see or believe for whatever reason, it makes it more believable. But it's like to anybody else, they'll be like, they'll be for anybody else, they would be able to see it as a shoddy illusion. For anybody else, they would be able to hear and notice all of the holes in the argument. It's like, yeah, but like you can't say this and then 2 seconds later say the complete opposite thing. But for the person that wishes to hear, see, and be affirmed and validated in that way, of course they don't hear it because they already know, you know? But I am going to look before and after that well crafted illusion because I don't know. And it, because at first, with this being another energy that is so far away, it feels like it's far away in terms of like, I don't know, court cards represent people. So maybe that could be somebody in your life who had a position of advantage. Maybe because you were less experienced, maybe because there's an age thing. But it's like knowing, and maybe it's not even, maybe it relies more on inexperience than it does on what it is that we wish to sort of see, think, or believe. Maybe it's just like we don't know any better, we don't know any different. So if somebody tells us something, then we're going to believe it, especially if it comes from someone who we trust or if it comes from someone who we think we should trust because of um, societal like norms and stuff like that, right? Like your parents are people that you should inherently be able to trust. A teacher is someone that you should inherently be able to trust. Like people like that. A boss is someone who you should inherently be able to trust to tell you how to do your job correctly and effectively. Like you would assume that your boss isn't telling you to do your job wrong so that they can make you look a certain type of way. You know what I mean? And it feels like an energy that may have taken advantage of an experience or may have taken advantage of its position. But now then that gives this a whole new context. Because then this is something that, because again, these are the towers of the moon, right? Now another thing about the moon card is that on the back of on the back of the moon card, you see that one of those towers is like, you see the truth about the towers, but I didn't look at the back of the moon card, so it's fine. We don't see the back of the towers in this card. We don't see the back of the towers in this card, so it don't matter. There's something that we find in that space, and it's like they weren't supposed to find that, and now it's almost like now somebody else is like, oh well, like let me go through that so I can experience whatever. Like, what? How did they? What? I don't know. See, there are so many like levels and layers to this, but the only ones that we have control over are the ones of self. And the more in self we are, and the more in the empowered self we are, the more that the more the implications of that control sort of ripple out, if that makes sense. I did not see this card, but I was also talking. I thought it was the first one. 1 second. I'm pretty sure a well crafted illusion is the first one. This is what happened last time. I go through in a single pass and I don't see it. So here it is. It's right here. It's the seven. You want to know what's interesting? A well-crafted illusion is the seven of diamonds. Is that seven of pentacles? Is that energy of like, well, of course the thing didn't grow because although you did everything that you could do above the surface, there were the things below the surface that were being neglected, symbolized by the skull that was, at the base of the tree. Like, this is why you can't get more than barely seven pentacles to grow in this thing. And it's in between the king of spades and the ace of spades, the 13 and the one of spades. And I thought I was done, but we're not. Because now I'm going to pull before and after, and the ace of clubs is at the bottom. Now I'm going to pull before and after the ace of spades and the king of spades. Now I also have to find what the ace of spades and the king of spades are in Lenormand. So, yeah. And I think that's the thing. Because it's almost like that energy would have come in before we would have even known that that's something that we have to do, before we even know that we need to use our discernment and intuition when it comes to certain people, because it's just such an energy of like where we would not have expected it. Oh my gosh, I watched that episode last night. I'm watching this show, and there was this I forget what he said, but he was like, be mindful of the something around you. It was like the false smiles, because there are people who hold darker desires, and you don't want to be fooled by them like you were fooled by me after after the truth came out. I was like, oof, what that mean? Now I feel like I gotta watch the show and be like, you know what I mean? Lenormand cards associations, and there we go. Is the ace of spades the woman? I don't know. I don't know. This is what I was looking for. Here it is. This is what I'm looking for. The ace of spades is the woman. Ow. And the the king of spades is the lily. The woman named Lily. Which is interesting because I've just seen the lily and the woman when I went looking for Lily and Crossroads. I'm pretty sure the woman was at the bottom, or was that the man? I don't know. The one, no, yeah, the woman was there somewhere. I don't remember. You're watching The Last Kingdom? What's that about? I've never heard of it before. I was watching an anime. That's what I was doing yesterday. I was like, I need to clean. I'm gonna clean today. Organize. Because it's that time, you know? Let's give this. Oh, there we go. Well, the night birds are coming out. So a card just came out, and I think this deck has two birds cards. There's the night birds and the day birds. The owls have come out. And you want to know what the association is for the owls? For the birds, it's the seven of diamonds. This same seven of diamonds. The same seven of pentacles that came out, which again, since it's the night birds and not the day birds, since it is the owls with this moon up here, I feel like it is that, like, the things that need to be done, the things that need to be taken care of in the underworld, the lower world, and the mystical shaman, it has this thingy in it. And because I see things the way I see things, and because of a dream I had one time, but mostly because of the way I see things, that thingy looks like it's supposed to be a light. Like there is supposed to be a beacon in the underworld that's not there. because it's like it doesn't get it enough for it to be sustainable. It's like we're trying to have this extended release energy or extended relief energy where it's like, oh, you take it, it'll be good for 12 hours. So you don't have to take another one until then. But it's like we're being sold good for 12 hours extended relief, extended release. But in reality, it's good for like 20 minutes. And it's like, well, if I got to take it every 20 minutes, it might as well be continuous. Like it might as well stay there, right? Yeah. Or not. Bottom of the deck is time. And I see this card almost every time I use this deck. It's time. Oh, is it time? Is it time now? The owls in Harry Potter are the ones that bring the messages. They're the ones that give out the letters, right? Hedwig? Or did Harry just. No, they all have owls, right? That deliver the letters, right? It's time. Mm. So I'm looking for the 29 woman and the 30 lilies. Oh, snap. I haven't even watched. Is that why Rima's rewatching Game of Thrones again? Because I know she said she was watching it again, but I can't remember if she said why. I never watched Game of Thrones though, so which is kind of crazy because oh, here's the woman. Ooh, ooh. It's kind of crazy because Game of Thrones is like everything that I love. Like I'm such a high fantasy person. Like high fantasy is probably the only books that I would still read if I read books. High fantasy is probably the only books I still read when I do read books. I kind of want to get back into Redwall a little bit. Redwall used to be the thing back in the day. Oh, look. So at the cut, as I'm done, there's the daybirds. So for comparison, here are the daybirds, here are the nightbirds. And what's interesting, because its time was at the bottom of the deck, that was the message from the owls, right? But that's not the bottom. This is the bottom. You see that? In the daybirds, it's missing the clock face. In time, we see all the bird houses, all the birds, birds of all kinds of species, clocks of all kinds of types, similar to this in the daybirds, but again, like there's no time. And it reminds me of Storybrooke when the clock was stopped at stagnancy, the curse that never breaks. And you want to know what's on the other side? It's the snake. So if we want to talk about all that deception and this and that and da 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 da, that's where the deception occurs. It occurs in the day. It occurs in the light, and it feels like it takes advantage of our understandable nature to not want to gravitate towards things that are dark or unknown, not even necessarily sinister, just like unknown. And that goes back to the well-crafted illusion that's just like we're like where we can be inexperienced, where we don't know any better. But it's sometimes it can be like we desire to know something so badly, or we want the comfort of knowing so badly that we'll believe anything. Not anything, because it feels like on a good day it has to have some semblance of truth on it or in it. But it's like we'll believe conveniently. Speaking of the Seven of Wands, that was that settling. The Seven of Wands in the Divine Tower. And I almost wonder if it is like if there would be someone who's like, well, it's better to believe a lie than to not know anything. Or it's better to believe a partial truth than to live with the understanding that there's something that we don't know. And I feel like I'm hearing someone say, "Well, isn't that what science is?" And to that, I would say, pretty much. We test hypotheses, we validate and try to affirm our own hypotheses. Like, I think this is true. Let me do something to prove that it's true. It only takes one piece of evidence to prove something is not true, no matter how much points to it as true. But also, we live in a world of exceptions. So, not that that's necessarily bad either. It just is what it is. And is that what science is? I don't know. It can be. I would say, oof. Mm, I didn't expect to be challenged in that way. I kid, I kid. You've been seeing birds and clocks? Oh, snap. 39, 30, 31, 26, 29, 33. And then there's a lot of threes here. There's a 12-3 that is the birds. This is the card that just came out. I ain't even going looking for the 7 of diamonds. It just came out. The 39 is a 12-3. 30 is a raw 3. Well, 30, 3 plus 0 is 3. And then there's the 33, which is a 6, but it's 2 threes. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 threes is a 15-6. And then there's a 26-8, a 29-11, and a 31-4. So a well-crafted illusion, a contaminant blowing in the breeze, searching for an open eye. This is why it's a well-crafted illusion. Because the contaminant, it's like there's a speck of dust that is looking for an open eye. There's an open eye that's looking for a speck of dust. And so, and maybe that's a theme here with Death and the Ace of Swords. It's uncomfortable truths that have the potential to shake our very understanding of the way things are in any area, sector, or aspect of life. It could be the way things are from a business, corporate sense. It could be the way things are from an interpersonal, emotional sense. It could be the way things are from a whatever sense. But with it being the rebirth side of the death card with this Ace of Swords, it's like after it feels like it takes the uncomfortability out of the truth. So it almost seems like it runs parallel or anti-parallel to this energy, because this energy is about it's the one who wishes to be deceived so that the thing that they wish were true can be seen as more true. Even I feel like it's not necessarily that. It's not necessarily super cynical. It's an energy that's easy to deceive because of its inexperience. And so that inexperience might lead it to believe something. That inexperience might lead it to just be wide open to the first thing that comes along that sounds like it kind of sort of remotely makes sense. But with this, it feels like the uncomfortability is taken out of that truth because we more so desire the truth. It's like more than I want to be lied to be comfortable with how I think, feel, and what I know. I want to know the truth, even if that truth destroys me, even if that truth is that the thing that I've wanted for so long is not to be mine. Because then I guess that kind of sort of follows back into that Ten of Swords energy. Because then it's like with the crumbling of or the completion of with the completion of this mental intellectual cycle, I can move forward with a knowing and understanding. and I can experience the world in a more genuine and authentic way rather than digging deeper into the illusion of things. And was it the Three of Swords that came out with Beyond Illusion when I used the Osho Zen Tarot? I feel like it was like Beyond the Illusion of Separation or something like that. I don't remember. I know Beyond Illusion 20 Judgment came out, but I feel like there is you're right. I have realized how fortunate I am to have them in moments. But I think while I do still have them and while they are still there, um, yeah, I think too sometimes not to take away from what you're experiencing at all. Um, but I think there are some things that are for us to go through alone. And I say that because I think sometimes it's important for us to reach certain understandings ourselves. And going back to the energy of a well crafted illusion, not that it's malintended at all, but I think there are times when there is something that is for us to see in a certain experience. And it's not always what the other person might see because we're all different and we're all unique in ways. And it's not that we can't help each other because I think we can. I believe we can. I know we can. But I think sometimes it can be dangerous to take on someone else's understanding of a thing when it's meant for us to learn to understand it ourselves because it may mean something to us that it won't mean for the other person. For the other person, because of who they are, because of what they went through, and because of where they're going, a certain sign, event, series of happenings would mean something for them that's completely different than what it would mean for us. Um, and that's something like I'm glad to find people who understand that. So again, I'm glad to have them. Um, and there are times when it's like the opposite is true. There are times when we are to be there for each other, times where we don't understand, and it's someone else that gets us in the direction of that understanding. It's like, oh, thank you so much for this because it was going pew, 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 over my head. Also, like if it's something that, like, again, if it's like something that you know, but you don't like, you're not necessarily ready to accept, then getting that confirmation from somebody else is like, okay, all right. So I guess I'm not going to. I gotta take my own Neptunian Piscean dust out of my eyes and see this the way I'm supposed to. It works so many ways, and it's all a journey. Um, but yeah, that's not what you were just saying. Like to have someone around you who understands. Yes, they understand. So thank you. But I guess for me personally, I've been in so many um, not life lessons, but it's like I feel like my journey for the past minute has been so experiential. It's like choices and decisions that I need to make, ways that I need to be, opportunities that I need to take, that it's like there are things within me that are being healed and resolved and worked through that words alone wouldn't really do. I don't know what I'm trying to say. Um, but if that is something that you desire and hope for, I hope you find it, stuff. So these less inconvenient truths, the truth that will set us free. The eagle is carrying a wreath. Is that a letter? Or no? No, that's the tail. That's the tail of the eagle. The eagle is carrying a wreath. On this side, we see the crown. The crown's not even on the sword. The crown's not even on the sword. This is so. See, when I said like one of the things in certain cards I look for, in the Two of Pentacles, I look for how balanced the pentacles are. In the Ace of Swords, I look for the distance between the crown and the hilt, the part where we hold the sword. It's not even on it. This is like, this is that completely over our heads energy. As it is when we don't know. Again, I feel like that's part of this. It's like it's not intentionally malicious. It's just things that we don't know. We don't know. We don't know what we don't know, and we can science things. We can hypothesize and theorize and test and validate and confirm. And it's not to say that that won't lead us to a knowing, because again, there's something experiential about this. But it's like the eagle is coming to drop the wreath onto the sword. The wreath symbolizing that completion world card energy again, victory. But also with the eagle coming, it's like it's going to be a lot harder to miss, rather than just like dropping the sword or dropping the crown out of the sky and hoping that at that time and at that moment our sword is in the position that it needs to be in, because this clearly missed. And if this were to move, it would just smack the crown right out of the air. But it's because this rebirth happens. It's because of the return to life that there are things that we now understand, because of the victory that occurred and happened in the space of the night. Again, the other side of the Ace of Swords is daytime. This is triumph that happened at night. And so that's why the snake is here. Because although in the space of the night, this King of Swords energy did feel malicious and malintended, this is so heavy. It's lessons. It's lessons, it's growth, it's the journey. And my grandma told me at church, my grandma goes to church. And she was like, "Oh, they're holding a demonology thing today." I said, "What?" That opened up a whole can of worms that I did not need open in my life. I told Rob, I don't know where I was, but I was like, this is not what I needed in my life right now. I don't need any of this stuff. No, thank you. And I can't remember how close that was to me watching Rob's live with Shaman Melanie. But I was talking to my mom about it. My mom was like, "Yeah, like I've had personal experience. Like this is what this pastor does. This is her bread and butter." And I've been in situations, and she was like, "It's important for us to know and be connected to and with our own personal ability to handle things." Because she was like, there's been situations where it's like, if you know that you can't do anything, it's better for you to leave than it would be for you to be collateral. And I was like, I don't need this. I was like, I don't need this. I don't need this. I don't want this information. And maybe I think after my last live, Rob was like, I think I need to like like this is what I meant when I said that. Because this is how my brain works. Part of my experience so far has been information comes into Patrick's sphere of knowledge and awareness. Patrick delves into set information, turns it into knowledge. Someone else comes and needs knowledge that Patrick just recently got. And that's it's played out in so many ways. I think that's why some people think I'm smarter than I am. And it's like, oh no, like I literally just dove into this like 2 weeks ago because something happened and I was teaching myself this thing. And because I taught myself, now I can help you. Like, this isn't stuff that I just know. Or like, oh no, like I just heard this random fact the other day. And now that's why I know it to tell you today. It's not because I know everything. It's just the convenient, synchronistic setup timing of the universe. And I was like, if this is information I'm getting, I am actively rejecting this information because it may come with connotations and things that I don't want. Now, the gag would have been if I would have rejected that information and needed it and didn't have it because I rejected it. And it's like the information, that's what Rob said when he was talking about the empathy, empath, right? When he was like, don't blame spirit for people. And he was like, he's like, spirit's like, I'm not the reason because people, I'm just trying to help you deal with them. And so maybe the thing will be the thing. The knowledge and information, it's not the thing that causes the request for said knowledge and information later. The knowledge and information is help for when I face that thing later. Look at me having little breakthroughs. What? Because I was like, I don't want to know. Because if I know, then it's going to be needed. And it might be, girl, like it's going to be required of you regardless. So you can either prepare yourself as much as you can now, or you can go into it completely blind. And then from that perspective, this is where I'm like, instead of being like this, I'm like, okay, this. Like, let me increase my knowing and awareness and understanding a little bit so I'm not completely clueless when this happens. But anyway, off of that tangent, um, I watched a little bit of it on Facebook Live. Or was it live? I don't remember. I think it might have been because she told me what was happening. I was like, I was intrigued, scared, but intrigued. Um, and he talked about how when Lucifer fell from heaven, what he was created to do, it didn't change. He still did and does what he was created to do, but the way that he goes about doing it is different. So it's very like devil's advocate, it's very reverse psychology. Well, part of it, I mean, he said the thing that he said, so I took it as like that's why I was like, oh, so devil energy could be the thing that like tempts us away from the thing or that colors things in a potential way, but ultimately that energy is still leading us to where we're supposed to go. It's just like instead of being, it's like opposites day. Instead of being like, hey, here's a nice person that you should spend your time with, it'll be like, this person seemed a little too nice. They got to be hiding something. Like, I don't know about that. Let's go over here. But it's like, hold up. I know you though. I know you lie. So there's no reason to be like whatever. And then that's when you get like wink, 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 wink from the devil instead of devil energy changes as we work through again the things that we work through. Because devil energy is, I guess it's holding the space. I'm not saying that Neptune is the devil or that Pisces but it's like that's the illusion. And it's like after it's not that's the illusion. It plays on our insecurities. That's what devil energy does, right? It plays on our insecurities, it plays on our fears, it plays on our weaknesses. And so if we understand our insecurities, fears, and weaknesses, and if we're in a space of being brave and being courageous, then that energy our relationship with that energy changes. All right, see you later, Steph. Love you too. Enjoy the rest of your day. And it's like we understand. But again, it's not always the opposite though. So that's why intuition and discernment and presence is important. Because if we get stuck in that, oh, devil energy is always going to tell me to do the opposite of what I should do. So I'm just going to always do the opposite of what devil energy says. Well, then devil energy is going to know to tell you to do the thing. So that when you do the opposite of what it says, now you're playing right into the hands of devil energy. And it's funny because I saw something on Snapchat yesterday. I looked at the Bitmoji story on Snapchat yesterday, and it was this April. It was from 2 days ago, but I saw it yesterday. It was an April Fool's thing, and it was since I was looking at the story, it was me and the last person that I sent a message to on Snapchat, and it was like, "I'm ready. I'm prepared this year. You're not gonna fool me." And then the other person was like, "What are you talking about?" And then I was like, "It's April 1st. It's April Fool's Day. I'm prepared. You're not gonna fool me." And then the other person was like, "What? Like, is today April Fool's? Oh, weird. Like, I didn't even know. I'm not gonna do anything this year." And then I was like, "Yeah, right." And so I wish I could hold up. I might be able to just show you. And then it was like that person like ready and prepared, and the other person sitting on the couch with the angel halo. Like, it's because we're so ready and prepared and anticipating. The real trick, the real prank is not doing anything. Oh, it's different. So you think you're so important. Oof! Call me out. This is what it is today. You think you're so important, huh? It's a cat. Oh. Anyway. And I think the same could be true for a lot of things. It's like we have to be more clever than that. While it is clever and smart to realize that, like, usually it's the opposite. Like, if they say go left, you go right. Well, if they know, if they want you to go right, if somebody wants you to go right and they know that if they tell you to go right, you'll go left, they'll tell you to go left. So you go right. And then you're thinking, you're being big brain. Oh, I'm doing the opposite. I'm doing the right thing. But in reality, the energy wanted you to go right. The energy knows you and understands you and knows that if they want you to go right, they'll tell you to go left because you always do the opposite. So that's why it's like we need a more robust intuition. We need a more dynamic discernment. And isn't that a scripture? All things work together for the greater good or something like that. And so it basically long segue cut, bringing it back. Oof, this why is the snake still with this man? Eve, they're still together. Because this is temptation. That's temptation in the flesh. That's why. Kidding. Kinda, I guess. I don't know. That's why, like, it feels like this energy, while it is orchestrating, depending on who we are, we can still get to the place that we're meant to be. But again, it just feels like the intuition needs to be more dynamic. The discernment needs to be more robust because we're also in a time of transition. We're in a space where things can change. And so if there's a certain thing that's been corrupt and we're calling for and demanding and creating a more just version of that thing, there's gonna come a point in there sometimes where the thing that we're conditioned to distrust will be in a position to be able to trust because of the transformation that happened within that thing. Just like if you go through your own personal journey, healing, transformation, whatever, you're not the person that you used to be. And if there's someone that you want to reconnect with, or if there's an opportunity that, again, with that Seven of Pentacles, because of everything that you've done within yourself, that you're now ready to take, It's like we wouldn't want to be met with like, oh, like I don't believe you've changed. You're the same. Like you've never changed. You're still doing this, that. And when we experience that, a lot of times we cut those people off. We call them karmic, toxic, whatever. But when it's someone else, we sort of approach them with the same energy. We can. Again, that's why a robust and dynamic, healthy intuition and discernment is needed, because it's not always the opposite. That can accommodate for and account for change. That is what connects us to the web of everything and the y'all. And that more subtle, more energetic, this is where the current is now moving again with this energy, with those readings where like we come across that that current. If we go in that direction, it'll get us a lot farther, a lot faster, but also it requires that 90 degrees, maybe less severe, depending on where you meet that other current, right? Because again, like with this, if the energy is moving and like this way and you're coming at it this way, then it's not going to be as severe as if like you were going this way and you got to make a full 90 degrees. Now, can you 180 in this energy? I don't know. Oof. So I feel like that was a good at least half-hour ramble, and I didn't even read the cards that are on the table yet. The Ace of Clubs at the bottom of the deck, a strong will and open heart, all things taken into account. I love this. All things taken into account. An internal truth burning to be seen, the yin side of masculinity, a thrusty yet elegant dance. Six of spades, six of swords, the six of swords that was with the 10 of swords. Where did they go? Hello? Did those cards not come out? No, it was these two, death and the six of swords and the 10 of swords came out at one point. Yeah, because I was like, this is how I would animate the death card. Or how this is how I would illustrate the 10 of swords, going away from the dead body. So yeah, I'm like 2 hours and 17 minutes into it, Eve. It's fine. You didn't miss anything that you were meant to be here for. A wizard is always on time, mystic. How are you doing today? Um, a strong will and open heart, all things taken into account. That's what the robust dynamic intuition can do. Again, even when it's dealing with devil energies, all things taken into account. And I think sometimes, I don't even know if it's external energy that's smart or again, like everything comes back to self. We feel easy to read. Almost, it's like if you could look at somebody, if you're an empath, then you may be able to already. But it's like if instead of looking at someone's physical body, you could look at all of their bodies, their emotional body, their mental body, their energetic body, you would be able to see where they're deficient or if there's a defect somewhere. An obvious, an apparent surface level, easy to see defect. So it's like you don't have to be a genius to see that in someone's emotional body, they're missing, like they have this huge gaping wound all up in here, from the heart to the sacral. But on the emotional side, there's this huge gaping hole. Like you don't got to be a genius to see that, but because you see that, again, that lends to the energy of the well-crafted illusion. But it feels like it's all self-directed. Again, it's like because of what we already believe, or because of where we find convenience and what we want to believe, or what we want to feel, weighed against that five of wands, the battle between the new us and the old us. That doesn't necessarily have to be a fight because there may be some both new and old. but there was the whole thread of the self that exists without internal conflict. Um, my train of thought has departed the station. The new and old girl. Where did it just go? I just had it. The gaping wound. Yeah, it's like depending on how real we can sort of be with ourselves in that way. Again, it's this energy. Death in the Ace of Swords. Is it this death in the Ace of Swords where we completely miss the point? Or is it this death in the Ace of Swords? Because sometimes if the truth is too uncomfortable or too inconvenient, we'll prefer a lie or a more partial truth. Maybe not a whole lie, a more partial truth. Oh, snap. I saw Taurus's Cosmic Web reading because I commented on it. I was watching it and I was just like, I feel like Taurus is going to get a treat. Or was it Pisces? I think it was Pisces. It was Taurus or Pisces. I don't remember. It might have been Pisces. I don't know. It was, it was one of them. My memory is not there. I was just like, I feel like we're getting a treat. And then I got to the end of the video and you're like, I'm going to roll the die to see if you get, a whole reading, an oracle card, or if it's over. And we didn't get a whole treat, but we got a card. So. A low carb lie. I just like you look at the nutritional facts that you want. Like, for example, I was on a protein kick. So it would be like 5,000 milligrams of sodium and 2 million grams of sugar. But I'm like, ooh, 2 grams of protein. So it's good for me. Now I'm kind of on a fiber thing. I'm like, ooh, like 2 grams of fiber and like 15 million grams of stuff that I don't need in my body. But those 2 grams of fiber, I see you. This is self love. This is self care. Hey, Ali. Only one sign got the bonus. Oof. Oof. Now I'm going to be like, oh, Eve said it's only one sign. Am I filling it for this sign? It could be a sign that she's already read. I don't know. How are you doing, Holly? Did I ask? So I explained the snake and this energy. And the strong will and open heart, all things taken into account, this is the remedy for this energy. The only thing we can do is work on having a healthy intuition and discernment. So on the left side, the seven of diamonds, a well-crafted illusion, a contaminant blowing in the breeze, searching for an open eye, came out in between. There's devil energy here. Devil energy, Capricorn, the third eye, the root, and the element of air. That's why this is what it is. I want to see what this number is now. I believe it's a zodiac sign. It is the zodiac. No, it's a planet. No, it is zodiac. It's Sagittarius. Sagittarius, the devil, Capricorn, the third eye, the root, and air. This is why it's a well-crafted illusion. That's the shadow side of Sagittarius energy that can play into the devil. Sagittarius for me is the Hierophant in all of its higher seeking higher knowing and understanding, philosophizing, education, higher education, continued education, and all of that energy. It's Hierophant for me. And in this, it's the space where we are so attached to the science of what it is that we believe that it can keep us from the truth. Kirsty, oh snap. How you doing? Hello, hello. This one, it ain't necessarily chili pepper, but it's some stuff in this one that I'm like, oof. Didn't know we were going there, but we went there. And then the cards are encouraging me. It's like, stop encouraging me. But I feel like I ain't wrong. anyway. Anyway. So that seven of diamonds came in between the ace of swords, which is a Lenormand woman, and the king of swords, the ace of spades, which is a Lenormand woman, and the king of spades, which is a Lenormand lily. So we had the woman named Lily. Lilith. Oh my gosh, it all makes sense. The snake in the tree. It was Lilith the whole time. Anyway, Lilith was like, Eve, girl, let me liberate you. Let me free your mind so the rest can follow. And then Adam was like, "Oh, hold up! What you doing? What you do? Don't listen to her. Don't listen to her. She did this and she the mother of all monsters. Didn't you know that? She evil. Look at her. Look at her. Who takes the form of a snake? Obviously evil." And Eve was like, Eve ain't know no better, but she knew Adam going back to the position of the people who were supposed to trust because Adam was her husband, her lover. And look at what that got her. Now childbirth is going to be painful for Eve because she listened to Adam. So who was right? Was Adam right or was Lilith right? Was it the snake or was it the dude? Because she chose the dude and look how life turned out for her. Lilith was smart. She saw Adam for what he was and she was like, you know what? You might be the only man on earth, but I'm still good. Bye. Not even if you were the only man on earth, said Lilith, and she left. And then Adam got an Eve and Eve got an Adam. And how have things been for y'all ladies since then? I'm kidding. Let me stop. I'm sorry. Let me ground this. Let me get back to this. So I'll start on the left. Or should I go above and below? I'll start on the left. I'll start on the right because the left is a little more esoteric. Well, we'll see. So the king of spades, inspiring others by bold example, proper magnetism, and clear intention. Clearing of the fog. Clearing of the fog. I didn't even see that one. This is clearing of the fog on the side of the well-crafted illusion. The contaminant blowing in the breeze, searching for an open eye. That's cleared up. Love this energy. It's cleared on this side. Let's go. Let's go. And you know what I especially love? Because of the clearing of the fog, this sun card. So we have around Lily, it's Dice in the sun. Dyson. They make like vacuums, right? Clearing of the fog, sweeping of the rug. They make fans too. It's funny. Oh, Siri. Oh, I could have asked Siri. Um, I thought that said sin for a second because I was talking about Adam and Eve and the original sin. And it's interesting because in Latin, that's without. No, sans is without. Sorry. I don't know why I thought sin was without. Sans is without. And I was going to be like, oh, it's like without, the grace of the divine. I don't know. Anyway. See, this feels a lot riskier, though, than it should be. The dice and the sun. Because it's like if the sun is the sun, like it shouldn't be like taking a chance, right? Well, I guess it could be. But maybe again, that's that Aksunade energy is working its way back in. because of the proper magnetism, clear intentions, and because the proper magnetism and clear intention, the fog can clear. And magnetism and intention, it speaks of the clear intention speaks of us being more fully aware of why we make the choices and decisions we make. And then the magnetism is how the internal choice and decision aligns with the external circumstance reaction, the cause of the effect that we set forth internally. Now, the proper magnetism and the clear intention is when we get the thing that we want, regardless of the challenge that sort of stands in between. What was it? Was that a dream I had or was that real life? No, that was that anime I watched yesterday. Because they were playing dodgeball, basically. And they were like, somebody from outside of the game, they can get people out inside. But if some, it's like, if someone, it's like dodgeball. If someone gets hit by the ball, they're out. And if someone on this side hits somebody, if someone in the game hits someone and takes them out on the other side, then someone who's out on this side gets to come back into the game. Now, the people who are outside of the game can also get people out, but if someone outside of the game gets someone out, no one gets to re enter. People only re enter the game if someone in the game creates that opening within the game for them to step in. And so then it's like, how many people from outside of the game have to eliminate people in the game if we're only left with one person on both sides? Because if people in the game were getting people out, then there would be more people in the game. And again, that's sort of like, this is that out of the game, but causing stuff, drama, whatever, all the way inside the game. This has, for those of you who are just joining me, there are many layers and levels to this. But I'm trying to focus on the more personal one because that's the only one that we really, that's the one that we have the most control over. Right. It's been all over the place. It's fine. Because I was seeing it was like there was something that it was like going around and hitting inside. I was like, what was that? That's why I was like, did I see that or did I dream it? And it was the diagram of like somebody outside the game getting someone out on the other side. I don't even remember where I was going. With the proper magnetism and clear intention. I don't remember. Are you? It's hilarious that you mentioned biscuits and gravy, Holly, because I picked up my phone and I got a text from somebody. I didn't open the whole text, but it literally said, now I'm going to open it. Where is it? It says, y'all, I finally got my biscuits and gravy. Sent at 10:58 a.m. And so now you mentioned biscuits and gravy. I'm like, okay. That was what is up with? I wish I had biscuits and gravy. I'm hungry. I didn't get breakfast yet this morning. I think I thought about biscuits and gravy, but I was like, oh, I want a breakfast crunch wrap from Taco Bell. Everyone's doing biscuits and gravy. A biscuit is not a cookie. Let me show. Oh, well, I'll find you a picture. Well, I'll do it on this one because this one's bigger. A biscuit, I'm sure. I feel like it's like a. It's not like a scone. It's not a scone, but biscuits and gravy. Wait, y'all have like I'm sure I have biscuits, right? Because you can get a breakfast sandwich on a biscuit, or you can get it on an English muffin. Well, this is biscuits and gravy with some herb. So this is the biscuit, and that's sausage gravy. This is also biscuits and gravy. Ooh, I'm making myself hungry. I feel like there should be an equivalent of a biscuit, right? These are not biscuits. So like this is a biscuit. These are biscuits. These are these. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like there should be an equivalent, right? There has to be, right? Maybe not. Okay, so it is like a scone, but not sweet. Gotcha. Is this Cyril Machete? Of course it is. If you got a deck with CM in it, it's Cyril Machete. I think Russ said he doesn't like Cyril Machete decks because of the because he's injected himself on like everything. You see CM all over it. Maybe it's a roll of the dice because um maybe it just speaks of the daring or the trust that's required. I don't know. Why is this a chance? One second. Oof. Hold up. Where are you? What? Here you are. I got two dice right here. A 2 and a 6. What does this mean? I don't know. I don't know. Oh, okay. So this is what came out. And it feels like with the 6, there are these two parallel lines. It's like we're given these 2 points and we're told to do something. And so with these two, what we do is we go down with this one and we go up with that one. But there's also the diagonal. I don't know what that means though. It reminds me of, is it Hagal? Or is it Hell? It's the rune, it's the H rune, but with only one line. Like it's these two, and then the ones that would connect them in between. Let's see if I still have them. I mean, I know they're in here. Let's see if they're together because they fell apart. And they are. Let's see if I can find this rune. Let's see if I can find this rune. Boom. Beep beep. I had a thought yesterday. I was like, I should finish the zodiac runes. I should finish all those readings I started, never finished. Oh, I got reversals in here. Do I have the one I'm looking for? Is it missing? Is it? So hell is both of them. So Hagal, it's right here. And hell's not too far away. The difference are in between hell and Hagal, it's day, purged, dag, or dej. That's the difference between oops. The difference between day and Hagal. But I'm looking before and after Hagal. And it's day and Watchagafal, but it's Watchagafal in reverse. Which is interesting because Watchagafal came out in Russ Robin Reed's New Moon Aries read in the website post that they link to in their community posts. And I think it was Hell. Was Watchagafal one of the? Yeah, I think it was. I don't remember. I don't remember. Biscuits with butter and sweetened condensed milk drizzled on top. What? Eagle squeezins. Because I use the Eagle brand. I know, right? I mean, I feel like the easiest way to read this would be um like the risk that we would feel and the vulnerability of being open to the possibility that a lot of what we know is incorrect or is partial truth. A lot of what we know is only partially true. And so it feels like there's no guide to the truth. Maybe again, this is that point within the hermit's journey when they exchange the lantern of the Hierophant for their own light, where they come into their own light and they're guided by their own light a lot further and deeper than they were by the light of the Hierophant. Because again, the Hierophant is only meant to take us to the door of spirit. It's meant to introduce us to spirit for us to then get to know spirit for ourselves. It's not meant to stand in the place of spirit. So on the other side is tapping into the seed of all creation, understanding what predates all and things that must remain in the dark. The Ace of Spades. And that one is coming out with the 10 of diamonds and the 8 of diamonds. What? The book and the key. The book and the key. And it's interesting because it's almost like this is a lock on the book, and then there's the key to open up the lock. There's the woman. I think there might be two women in this deck, though. Oh, see, like understanding what predates all and things that must remain in the dark. This would be a very, very old book with the key. But it's like once you read the book, you can't share the information of the book because we're all meant to find our own books, right? And again, it's like because for some reason I was thinking about energetic services. So like whenever someone goes to someone for like anything, but the concept and idea was that like what's for one person might not necessarily be for everybody, and what's not for one person might not necessarily be what's not for anybody. And so if you're someone that someone's given permission to go into their whatever, and it's almost like there needs to be a wisdom and understanding, or something about what is for that person. Because like let's say that we're doing, I don't know, some kind of cord cutting, and there's a cord that I needed to cut that was attached to family, because I had a family that was toxic, that's connected to a line that is not for me. I'm supposed to start something new within my line. It's like it restarts with me. And so I go forward with no connection to anything in the past. And someone comes to me, and from what they're saying, it sounds like, something is similar for them. And so I go into their whatever and I cut that familiar cord for them because of what they said, because of what I did for myself, and because of what I believe, blah, 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 whatever. But it's like, what if in reality that familial cord needs to be kept alive for that person? Maybe there's another side to their family. Maybe there's more along that they need access to, that's meant to continue to flow through them. It's like not a great example, but it's just like whenever we do something, or whenever anyone does something on that subtle of a level, or whenever I guess we ask anything to do, whenever we ask anyone to do something on that subtle of a level, my initial thought and feeling would be like anyone who provides a service like that would be connected to spirit, and they would be able to connect to spirit in a way to know what is for you, and so they don't remove anything that is not to be removed. But for me it's just like the short-sightedness of people and the limitations of an individual's intuition and an individual's ability to see and hear and witness and experience all. And maybe it's not an all thing, but it's just like, I don't know. But again, in general, it's just like it's the space of things that's meant for us to experience ourselves. But again, at the same time, I don't see, that's what makes this sort of tricky, which is also why all things taken into account, it's like if we have a more robust and dynamic intuition and discernment, it's able to accommodate for and account for the minutia of the details. But if we have a more stagnant intuition discernment that's built mostly upon things that we've always known or things that we've already experienced, then that stagnant intuition isn't necessarily able to accommodate for and account for the time of transition that we're in. And we can't have stagnant intuition on either side. We can't have past stagnant intuition or future stagnant intuition when we're in a space of experiencing that which is to come, while at the same time experiencing that which is soon to be departed. There is another woman though, so I'm pretty sure there's another woman. I know there's two men. Yeah, there is another woman. She's a woman that I rarely see. I want to see what's before and after her too. Where are you? The other woman. Aw, that's cute. Is this the? That's not the tower. We have bouquet. Is that the tower? Six of spades. Look at this. Six of spades. Six of spades. An internal truth burning to be seen. The yin side of masculinity. A thrusty yet elegant dance. The sixes of spades. There you go. Cute. Oh, look. Behind the six of spades is the ten of diamonds. This is the ten of diamonds. A blistering heat and freezing cold that lies at the heart of creation, the truth of the heart made plain and beginnings. Ooh, the book of beginnings. Okay. And then there's the queen of diamonds, or the queen of clubs, and that might have been the snake. I don't remember. It's gone now. So the other woman is in between. Both of these are a 9. A 27-9 and an 18-9. She's in between the letter and the dog. The 7 of spades and the 10 of hearts. Look at the difference between these two women. The woman who came out with the book is holding a book. Interesting. There you go. Let me cover that. Look at the difference between these two women. We're all adults here. This one feels more contented. This one feels more longing. And it feels like there's an energy of compromise here. Like, and I'm trying not to, I'm not saying this from a place of judgment, because there's a difference between the things that we do from an empowered space and the things that we do because we think we'll get something from it. This is the woman who's learned to use like her body. It's not that she's learned to use her body to get things that she wants. It almost feels like this is the woman whose experience has been that her body is the only thing of value that she has. It's like it's a woman who's never been praised or admired or acknowledged for her heart, her mind, her talents, her anything but her body. And so when it comes to her wanting to like not even get something or do something, but it feels like if that's the only thing of value that she has, then to feel like she has worth, that's the thing that she uses. And in her using her body, she only gets a letter. Whereas the other person gets the whole book. The whole book, like she came out with the book and the key, and she's reading the book in her card. Like the book is open, which is interesting. But then there's a certain part where it's almost like not fair. because we don't decide how other people treat us. We don't decide what we're known for. We don't decide, like, there's only so much of our interactions with other people that we decide. But that's the thing about this illusion too, is that part of it feels like it's just an experience. It's like things like we don't know better. It's almost like she wouldn't know that she has so much more to give than her body because nothing else has ever been asked for or appreciated. Uh, oh, here it is. My little ace of clubs fell on the deck in reverse. And again, that card is a strong will and open heart, all things taken into account. It fell out and came, I picked it up in reverse because, again, that woman isn't able to take everything into account because everything has been so focused. And because everything has been so focused, the letter and the dog, it's like it reveals what is relevant to her experience. Like that's the loyalness of the dog. Like the loyalness of the dog feels like it's trained. This is information that she's trained to receive rather than, again, what this card is, tapping into the seed of all creation, understanding what predates all and things that must be kept in the dark. This is everything. This is even more. And again, I feel like that plays on the energy of this uncomfortable truth and how we deal and handle uncomfortable truths versus how we approach those same truths, but from the space where they're less uncomfortable. And they're less uncomfortable because of us. The attachment isn't to everything that we already believe as true or things that we need to be true to have some kind of safety and comfort in the world. Now the attachment is to the truth. Well, it's not really attached though. So maybe then this is spirit's gamble on us, on whether or not we will make the choices and decisions that we need to make to be wherever it is that we're going, to properly magnetize and to clear our intentions, or to be more clear on what our intentions are. And even here, like, I'll pick up both women, and then I'll pick up the lily. So the stationary owl is looking at the lily. The moving owl is flying in the direction of the women. And for me, that it sort of clarifies that like the gamble is on the side of spirit. Well, kind of it is. If you've ever dealt with people, especially flaky or flighty people, you know that it's a gamble on whether or not they'll actually do the thing. And I feel like spirit's betting on us that we will do our part to usher in the that golden sun age era, that we'll do what we need to do to come into better in our own lives. I think too, because of the way that this one, I guess her hand isn't over her heart necessarily, but the way, because of the way she's clutching her chest and because of the way she looks, like this would be the woman who, I don't want to say the woman who has sex, but doesn't have too many intimate moments. It's because it's like you can engage in the physical act, but not have that emotional exchange. Oh, what did I say? The one who looks at bodies. So maybe this is like us looking at ourselves. Because that was with the snake and this King of Swords. It was like, um, it feels like spirit looks at us as more than our physical body. So spirit sees the physical body, the mental, emotional, energetic, etheric, and I already said emotional. The mental, intellectual, energetic, etheric, the emotional, and the physical. And the body can be physically fit, mentally and intellectually fit, but like have some kind of emotional deficit. And it can see, because it reads our emotional body just like it can see our physical or any other body, where we're lacking. And this is the woman who focuses purely on the physical body, or one body, focuses on a limited number of bodies and allows the others to suffer. That's why as her body is ready, like her heart aches and her mind is like she's not all the way there. Or her mind is, it's on like something else. But the physical body is ready. This one, it just feels like there's more balance overall. And so again, like that's why that energy is poised to receive the whole book, whereas the other one is only ready to receive the letter. Because it's what we're ready for, or what we're asking for through whatever number spaces. So you just had deja vu, oh snap. This was supposed to be the last two cards in this deck. It's fine. It's early enough that I can afford 3 hours. But honestly, I don't. I need to clean today. I want to take a nap anyway. I think that's why Water Gafal is in reverse. Water Gafal is in reverse because the owl that faces the lilies is stationary. It's almost like it's no longer the space of things that will just happen. It's almost like maybe there was a time where regardless of what we were or weren't doing, things would just happen. It reminds me of, it makes me think of Jupiter before everything conjuncted Pluto and Capricorn in 2020, because Saturn and Jupiter conjuncted in Aquarius. Was that late 2020 or was that 2021? No, because Jupiter is all the way in Pisces. So yeah, that had to be 2020. It felt like before everything conjuncted Pluto and Capricorn, Jupiter was just like the great benefic. This is how I read and interacted with the astrology, just like how I read and interact with different mythologies. Um, but it was like Jupiter is no longer going to be the planet that just gives and gives and gives and gives and gives, because we don't grow. And so it's like now Jupiter's going to be coming into an energy where it gives when giving is deemed necessary. Almost like we got to work for it now. So Saturn and Jupiter work in conjunction rather than Saturn being the endlessly and eternally restricting and limiting, and Jupiter being the endlessly and eternally giving and expanding. They're going to work together. Or after we do whatever it is that we need to do, then Jupiter can come in with the expansion And again, it might just be because the things that we're coming into now, it might be that like they're so hands-on or it's so tied to the experience that it's like, what's the point of someone winning the lottery if they're going to blow all their money on cars, drugs, and carnal pleasures to have even less 5 years from now than they did before they won? You know, it's almost like that kind of energy. And it's like, we have choice and we have free will, which is why I think the dice are here. So it's almost like now we're going to make those choices and decisions up front, and then we're going to get the thing rather than getting the thing and making choices and decisions up front. It's just like a presidential election. A candidate can say anything that they want to while they're campaigning. And there is nothing that legally makes them do the things that they promised to do in a campaign. They don't have to do it. So of course you get all kinds of people that say whatever it is that they need to say. They appeal in the ways that they need to appeal to get a position, and then once they get that position, they do the thing that they always intended on doing. We just have to trust and believe or have that discernment to be able to distinguish, I guess, like, is this person sort of just like selling me the lie? And that's the well-crafted illusion, the contaminant that blows in the wind, searching for an open eye. It's like, are you telling me what I want to hear? And it don't even got to be politicians. It could be people in your personal life. Are you telling me what I want to hear to get some kind of something? And then once you've gotten what you want, then, ooh, sorry. I had a dream last night. I had a dream this morning and I was like, what is this dream? So you've heard me talk about the period and point in my life where I was like, I'm not going to guilt myself for this. I'm not going to shame myself for this. But I am going to figure out why the frick I keep doing this. Because I know that I'm not going to get any fulfillment out of this interaction. I know that I'm going to be hungrier than I was before I sat down to eat this plate if I put this in my mouth. So why do I keep putting this in my mouth? And so I had this dream last night about somebody that I haven't seen in a long time. And I was just like, hey, and they were like, yeah. And then it was like, it's fine. I'm all about being candid and open and vulnerable. So it was like there was an interaction. Speaking of sex without intimacy, there was an interaction, and that lasted for like 5 seconds that I got nothing out of. And I'm like, so like, are you gonna help me? Like, and the person was like, nah. I was like, okay. Again, not surprised at how it worked out. Cause like I said, like there was always something in me that wasn't fulfilled. Like this isn't what like, is this physically what I want? Yeah, sure. But that's it. Speaking of like only the physical body, it doesn't satisfy anything else. And because it doesn't satisfy anything else, my physical body isn't satisfied. So even when I'm physically winning, I still lose. But after I woke up, I was like, that person approached me knowing what I would do. Didn't have to make a request at all. It was just like, oh, I see this person. Oh, like, and they're like, yeah. And then they got what they wanted out of me without even having to ask for it. And again, like I knew that. And again, like it pretty much worked out the way I knew it would. And so, but I was just like, I just woke up today and I'm like, why did I have that dream last night? That's so weird. Like I ain't dreamt about this person or thought about this. Well, I wouldn't say I don't think about the person because I wish them well, of course. Like we were friends for a good minute. Um, And I do hope that they're doing well, but in that sense and context, like it just wasn't someone that I could keep in my life because of um like we trauma bonded. Like when we first met, our relationship was literally like I'm miserable and depressed AF. And it was like, oh my gosh, same. So we were both miserable and depressed AF. But I didn't want to stay miserable and depressed. And it was almost like I would have conversations with that person. They would talk about things that they could do to get out of their depression, but then there was like never any follow up. And it was things like, I know this would help me, but like, I'm not going to do it. And I'd be like, why not? Like, and it just reached the point where it's like, I got out of it and I was interested in moving forward, and that person wasn't meeting me with the same energy. And so it's like, I felt like if I was too high or too good or whatever, then like they would actively try to like bring me down. And that's when I was like, yeah, no, I can't do this. I refuse to do this. Like, we might be friends and I might like you and I might be interested in your well being, but I am not so interested in your well being that I'm going to sacrifice mine. So this is where we part ways. And I'm not doing it maliciously. I just can't. And it's not that I can't, it's like I don't want to. And so, like I said, there is a part of me that still cares for that person, but it doesn't care so much that, I'd go back to that. Sorry, not sorry. But I was like, that was so weird and so random. And so to tie it in whatever way I'm tying this in, because I got lost on that tangent, I think it was with this woman. Um, but anyway, yeah, it was a weird dream. It was a weirdly timed dream. I feel like more than anything. But also at the same time, maybe it wasn't, because there are a lot of experiences that I'm leaving behind and a lot of patterns that I need to break, because the season that's coming in, it's so much of what I want. And for the first time in a minute, and maybe that's why I had the dream too, because last night the thought entered, it crossed my mind. I didn't dwell on it too long, or was it this morning? I don't know if it was last night or this morning. I don't know if it was before or after that dream. Um, but I felt old feelings. Okay. I'm like, ooh, Saturn girl. I'm going through my Saturn return. She's almost exact. Um, there's so much of what I want, I guess, and if I think about it too long, I might actually cry. But there's so much of what I want that's like being presented to me. And for the first time in a minute, it was like if I actually pursue this or like take these opportunities, then it's like I'd really have to let go of some of the like fears and stuff that I've had for like my whole life. And I guess like one of the strangest parts is that like I don't have the attachments to it anymore because I chose to be brave, especially in the past few months that I've chosen to be brave. Like I've had fear after fear sort of invalidated. I've gotten to be the person that lives the life that to now that I wouldn't have even thought of as possible. And it's a level of, again, it's like affirmation and validation, and it's like I feel like nothing is being asked of me besides me. I'm not asked to be less of who I am. And the only more of me that I'm asked to be is more me. And so, like, when that old fear came up, without that attachment to it, it was like weird. Cause I was like, me? Like, but what about this? What about that? And it's like it was never true. And oh wow. So I guess we're coming back. Maybe this was all the personal read. And I know there are a lot of readers that say, like, well, aren't they all personal reads that we do? Like, and to that I would say, yeah, some are, some aren't. I feel like sometimes like there are energies that'll come through. I'm like, I don't know what this is. I feel like I don't have any personal connection to this, but I can feel where this is going. And I can use, maybe that's how I engage my empathy. Maybe I engage my empathy in spaces like this to flesh out the feelings and the everything for situations and stuff that I've not personally experienced. Maybe, I don't know. As I go back to talking more, the tears stop. So the more air I speak, the less water that I release. um, but yeah, it's like it was things that were never true. And there have been people. Oh my gosh, this takes on a whole new context and a whole new meaning. This is the loving, encouraging, supportive people in my life that I had when I was in a space and position that I didn't want it. I was like, leave me to the dark. Leave me to the nightmare. And they would try to call in this light. And I'm like, oh, it's too bright. No, I'm not ready to see it yet. But they can see me begging for water. I'm like, somebody please fill my cup. And I'm like, no, I don't want it. I'm like, no, I don't want it full. Leave me. Leave me to my misery. Oof, girl. Been there, done that. Anyway, I've been there, done that. You can keep the shirt. I don't want it. No, I'm not trying to forget, but I don't need a constant reminder. Thank you. Um, yeah, but it's like, but for me, like that would have been a tower because it was so much. And maybe that's another. Whoa, is that it? I'm like having a whole breakthrough right now because that type of love would have been a tower. And it was stuff that I wasn't ready for because in my own twisted mind, it's like, well, if I really loved and if I really cared for somebody, then I wouldn't make them suffer through an existence with me. Like they would be better off without me. And so it's because of that and some other stuff. I went like deep into isolation, like even with family. And then it was like, if I ever do something to myself, like I would want to hurt the least number of people possible. And so that's another reason why I don't want to go out and connect because I don't want to be long for this life. I don't want to hurt people I care about. I don't want to be a burden on people I care about. And oof, girl. I grew up with that. And I worked through a lot of it. And like I said, like this year especially has been so much of like you're not who you used to be. And I guess now I would be tempted to ask the question of like, well, was that ever me? Is there a difference between who we are and who we be? And I'd say yes. Working back to the energy of embodying, because I think we can act out a person that we're not. Insert insecurity or fear, or insert this woman, right? The one who is who she deems that she needs to be to get what she wants or where she wants to go. Refer back to the Queen of Swords that was fresh off of that Three of Swords. But maybe that's why the King of Spades, King of Swords, King of Air is coming in with that clearing of the fog through clear intention. And that's what this is. It goes back to like the two phases of inner child work. This is the inner child healing. But then there's the space where like we become that person. And I think that's what's sitting on the space of like returning to life. Because the internal feminine energy is already sort of like healed and positioned and ready. But it's that external masculine, exerting, observable on the outside energy that's coming into the space of being reborn. And so then the dice in the sun is like, do we take the chance on leaving those things behind and being in the world again? Because it's the sun. This is what's seen. This is what's consciously perceivable. This is what's expressed. That which we have internally sort of like healed ourselves into a space of. Oh, and look, we got the sun. How did I not catch that? The sun and days, the gear, day purged, water fall with the dice. And I like a Hagal weathering. A lot of times it feels like weathering is an energy of like decaying and eroding the light. But this one decays and erodes the shadow. It's not the dark, because the dark will always be what the dark is. But the shadow is created in the fight between light and dark as a sort of in between. When something obstructs light, it creates a shadow. Anyway, so again, like I don't know if that old fear popped up before or after the dream, but in the dream, it's like, oh, let me settle for this interaction that leaves me unfulfilled and or less fulfilled than I. And it's like it reminds me of a dry wine. Like, how can you drink a liquid and your tongue be drier? Like, aren't liquids wet? Hello? Like, it's possible. How am I less carnally fulfilled before a carnal interaction? Or how am I less carnally fulfilled after a carnal interaction than before when I had no interaction? Like, how does that work? And it's like, you ever been real hungry and so you eat something that isn't good? And you're just like, no, because even then your belly would be fuller. You know what I mean? It's not like you eat bad food and you're still hungry. I was like, no, your belly still gets full. 'Cause at least if it wasn't great, like, well, I'm not hungry anymore because I got some weight on my belly. Anyway, wow. Okay, come through. So this is where I am. I opened this video with me, and I guess I'm gonna close this video with me. The in between is for you if you resonate. The end or beginning is for you if you resonate. Um, Gotta risk it for the biscuit and get. See, I was trying to get the gravy, Kirsty, but got no biscuit and no sausage in the sausage gravy, if you know what I mean. Sorry. Anyway, I don't have to be so whatever. But anyway, um, well, I guess I did get sausage and gravy, but no biscuit because it wasn't a risk, you know. And that was the thing about the dream. I woke up and I was like nothing even had to be said to me. I was just like, oh, you're here, I'm here. And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, again? No, again, it was a dream. And it was weird because, like, this isn't. I was like, this isn't like even on my mind. Like, where's this dream coming from? But again, I just think maybe it's also symbolic of like that time coming to an end. It's like the beginning of a period of fulfillment and joy and all of the things that I was scared to welcome into my life because I honestly thought, I don't know like if I thought as in truly believed it, but every now and then, fairly frequently, but not super frequently, I would have a thought of like, I feel like as soon as I find happiness, like I just die, like I'd lose it. Or like it would be like as soon as I get it, it just be gone for whatever reason. So I was like, and I've talked about it before, like um happiness used to be something that triggered my depression. Like if I got too happy, I'd be depressed because I'd be like, oh well, like I know that this happiness isn't gonna last, so why even try? I was very much like I'd rather experience just pure misery than experience the pain of joy because it's not long standing. Oof. I was in it. Like in it. Glad to not be anymore. But yeah, it's weird and interesting. Now, when this pain came back, it felt a lot less triggering than when it a similarly related and aspected pain came back in November. Because when that pain came back, I was like, oof, I was like feeling it. I was like, oh my gosh, I ain't felt it like this in a minute. I don't know if I want it. But again, because I feel like because I chose to brave and courage and to face it rather than to run away, because that's what I did in the past. I always ran away at things that illusions. Like it wasn't even real. Now, is it that it wasn't real, or is it that I was stronger, braver, more flexed and prepared? Like I had trained for it. So when it was asked for me now, it's like, I didn't just show up with no preparation. Going back to the thing about the knowledge. The knowledge that comes in before the event it's not necessarily that the knowledge triggers the asking for that knowledge. It's that the opportunity to gain that knowledge comes before it's required as an act of assistance to help me get through whatever it is that I'm going through. And I can actively refuse that, but it's not going to do me any favors when that knowledge is still asked for. So I'm glad to reach the perspective that it's not the knowledge that manifests the request for it, because I would hate to have refused a knowledge, believing that if I were to delve into it more than something be requested, and then to like refuse that knowledge and have the request and then be like, I don't know, I didn't do it. I'm sorry, I ran away. I'd rather learn it this way. Um, be like, oh well, like maybe it's not that. And again, shout out to Rob. So Steph, you're right. A great, it is of great benefit and blessing to me to have like Russ and Rob and Reem and anybody else to have y'all. here, even in this space, because y'all help me as well. And Rob was like, I don't know if you're just doing that Taurian stubborn thing. I was like, I am. I am. I'm a Taurus moon and rising. I am totally doing that Taurus stubborn thing, and I know I'm doing it. I am owning it. I will own it while I do it, even though I know I shouldn't be. Because if I'm going to be a big boy, I'm going to be a big boy, even when I'm not being a child. I admit that I'm being a child, and I am using my human free will to be the biggest baby that there is. But anyway, well, he was like, maybe it's not. It's he was basically like, maybe it's not correlated in the way you think it is, and it's actually that like the empathy is to help you. And then he said as much in one of the videos that he did recently. I remembered earlier, but I forgot now. When he was like, don't when we blame spirit for people, and spirit's like, people are people. I can just help you deal with the people. So do you want my assistance in dealing with people, or you want to just handle people on your own? And then from that perspective, it's like, oh, okay, I'll take the help. Thank you. Um, but anyway, and maybe it's because of a lot of things. But again, I'm glad that I chose to show up in the ways that I did, because it'll make accepting um, things a lot easier. And trust, like, I got a lot of Taurus in me. I have a fixed and cardinal crosses though, because I got Sun. No, I have Moon and Rising Taurus, Pluto and Scorpio, Saturn in Aquarius, and then my Chiron is in Leo. And then I have Mars in Cancer, Jupiter in Libra, Neptune and Uranus in Capricorn, and then my Venus in Aries. The only one that is incomplete in my chart is the mutables, because I don't have anything in Virgo. I got nothing in Virgo. And if you knew me, you would not be surprised. If you only know me from work, then you might be. But if you knew me outside of work, you would not be surprised to find out that I have no Virgo in my chart. You probably wouldn't be surprised to find out that I have a lot of other stuff in my chart. So. I don't even have like an asteroid in Virgo or like a minor body. I got nothing in Virgo. Maybe that's the reason why I have a lot of Virgo really good friends. And I'm just like, I love Virgos. Virgos love me. I'm kidding. But growing up, like a lot of my best friends were Virgos. So I get it. I feel like Virgo Pisces is a good axis to be on. Like we get along. You know what I mean? Maybe just because Virgos and Pisces are good people. I don't know. I'm putting all the runes up right before I pull. Is that Earth Masion? That is Earth Masion. Before I pull them. Oh, that's another one. Who is this? Solstice Community. I didn't even think of that one. I went looking for Hagal, but that could be another one. Aww. And I love Virgos too. Oh. You right. I started a Jupiter series. And it was like Jupiter in whatever. Jupiter through the signs. I got like literally halfway and then I was done. I was really ambitious when I had a Zodiac series that I didn't finish. So I started another Zodiac series, and even more ambitious when I started a third Zodiac series while the previous two were still unfinished. And to no one's surprise, all three of them remain in the state of unfinishedness. But I did honestly have the thought yesterday or Friday about finishing the Rune series for the Zodiac. I might still do it. I don't have the updated runes though. And I would, well, I guess it wouldn't matter if I stuck with the version 1 version or did a more contemporary version. Because either way, it would work out how it was supposed to, right? But for the sake of completedness, run in reverse or raid. Ooh, still in reverse. Raid flipped out of my hand and still is in reverse. It's the ride, it's the journey, it's the 5. The bottom of the deck is Tear, and it's Tear and Smelt. With Needle Stitch. And you want to know what's interesting about Needle Stitch? Is it's 39, 39. We got the 39s. If it'll focus, there we go. Raid, Ride Journey. I'm hungry. Both of these cards are two-tone. Oh, I mean, a lot of them are two-tone, so that's not a surprise. This is about an extraction, though. But with Raid in reverse, it could be an inward journey in difficult places. It's like in spaces of stagnancy. And it's like it's trying to bring movement to things that haven't moved. And so it's just like extra, it requires even more effort because an object at rest wants to stay at rest, just like an object in motion will stay in motion. Oops. Inertia works both ways. Momentum works both ways. It's like if there was a negative momentum that was an at restness, and then we have to exert a force to overcome the stationary force. And it makes me think of plastics. It makes me think of plastic fluids. And plastic fluids are like ketchup in those old glass bottles, where it's like the fluid doesn't flow until you apply pressure. And then after you apply pressure, the fluid flows in any number of ways. Right? It could be your shear thickening quicksand. It could be your shear thinning nearly any other fluid that as it runs, it gets easier to run. Quicksand is like if you put too much force on it, it actually gets more difficult to move through it. And then a normal one is like, you apply an amount of force and it'll run. Applying more force or less force gives you a more proportional amount. You apply more force, it runs in, whatever. And so, like, the plasticity of the fluid doesn't necessarily speak to how it moves once it begins moving. The plasticity of the fluid just speaks to it requires force to get it to move. Now, is it normal Newtonian after it starts to move? Does it get easier to move after it starts moving, or does it get harder to move after it starts moving? A raid in reverse would almost suggest that it's difficult to start and it's difficult to keep moving. But it's almost like it'll reach a point where it does get easier. So, the bouquet. Okay. Queen of Spades. I need another card for the bouquet, please. Is this a peace offering? Shake and shake the ketchup bottle. No more common than a lotto. I like that. Ooh, okay. Did anything flip over within the deck? No. Ooh, almost dropped the card. Sun and Bouquet. It's a bouquet in the sun. With the bottom of the deck being that tower. You know what I like about this? This is weird, but I guess I kind of touched on this a little bit when I was talking about like why that dream now. Um, it feels like a farewell letter. Behind the tower is the anchor and the ring, but mostly the tower and the anchor. It feels like a farewell letter from the things that used to hold us back. Isn't that weird? Is that weird? I mean, that's what it feels like. Like going back to double energy, it's like double energy could be like, congratulations, like you graduated. Like I've no more to not teach you. I don't know. It feels weird, but understandable. Because it's like, it's almost like as we part ways with the more restricted, restrained, less free, more miserable us, the things that kept us there also part ways. And it feels like it's being wished well. I accidentally picked up 3 cards, and you'll never believe who the third card is. Is this the snake? Nope. He's not even with the snake anymore. It's the man that was always with the snake. It's the man who uses his body. This is the other woman's man. Speaking of towers, I'm just playing. It feels like a I wish you the best from the tower. That's so interesting. That's so weird. I mean, it feels accurate, but it's weird to say though. Because it's almost like, maybe it's like if there was a teacher that you had that was really difficult, and so you thought that like they had it out for you or they didn't like you or whatever, and when it comes to graduation, like they're the it's almost like they're the one that you get the warmest send off from, and then you're like, didn't you hate me? Like, why did you actively make my life miserable? And then they're like, I didn't hate you and I didn't want you to be miserable. I was pushing you to be better. I was pushing you to realize more and more and more of who you are, because I saw it within you, but you weren't seeing it within yourself. And so I took it upon myself to try to draw that out of you. And while you were resistant to being the great, magnificent everything that you are, which is where that feeling of challenge and struggle really came from. Speaking of the fluid, that as it moves, like it's difficult to get it moving, and then it's difficult to keep in motion. But after a certain point, it eases out. It's very that, because it's almost like because of that, there's a strength that we get comfortable within ourselves, that we no longer have to suppress or repress or view in a certain perspective within ourselves. And it's like because of the situation that we get used to embodying and being. And then it's like, that's what I was here for. That's what I was here to teach you, and you pass. Congratulations. Have fun in life without me. And I'm like, will do. Won't miss you. Bye. See ya. But I'm a weird Pisces, so I might be like, you remember when I used to like be depressed and miserable? I don't want that for me anymore. But I kind of miss it. I don't miss it like I want it, but it was like my life for so long, you know? And it's like, you're a weirdo who gets attached to things like that. And I'm like, I do. Don't want you in my life at all. But, I hope that depression is doing well, you know? I don't hope it's torturing somebody else. I don't know. I'm a weirdo. It's fine. My feelings have feelings. Have you seen Inside Out? I'm just, I'm partially kidding. Prophetic dreams, inspired action, tapping into the other side again. This is a card that comes out frequently. Bottom of the deck is a single blade cuts through the tempest, calming the winds, a dislodged hunk of cheese. I love the dislodged hunk of cheese because the dislodged hunk of cheese, that's the cheese that is the contaminant that blew in the breeze searching for an open eye. Dislodged, removed. No more. And so things get a lot calmer. And it feels like because the winds are calm, they're now able to be directed. I don't know if directed is the word, but it's the word I'm going to stick with. Prophetic dreams, inspired action, tapping into the other side. What I like about tapping into the other side, maybe it's just like living life on the other side. Because we're used to, that's the storm. That was the storm with the sword court. The single blade that cuts through the tempest, calming the winds. That's the Knight of Swords, following the magpies through the storm, cutting through the winds of the storm. Here's two of them. It's not the knight, but we can see the blades and the tempests. And we'll be transformed by the end of it. Maybe that's what the sickle is now. We'll be transformed by, it's almost like, so this person up here, and this could be your future self, since we are in that weird loopy futurist sentinel covert technician whatever. It's like this one, it calls down the lightning bolt. The Page of Swords picks up that lightning in the form of this sword, the sword that holds some Zeusian sword that holds the power of lightning. And it sets us on a journey. By the end of the journey, we will be transformed, the scythe stuck in, or the sickle stuck in the ground, into this person. Right? And there's a lot of things for the page to overcome on the way. Necessary nemesis. Very much so. Necessary nemesis. Necessary nemesis. Anemone. An enemy. An enemy? It's not. Oh, it's like how the anemones, and the clownfishes live together. Like it could be an enemy, but it's anemone. Anemone. I don't. I've said the word so many times. I don't know what the word is and what it is. But the clownfish live in an enemy until because the enemy protects them from the world outside. Anything else would get stung, but it comes a point where we don't need enemies anymore. You know what I mean? It's like I don't need to see somebody else as the bad guy, or I don't need to see somebody else as working against me, or whatever, trying to use me or manipulate me. I can just be great. You know what I mean? And I can take accountability and responsibility for my own shortcomings. Not to say that there aren't people who won't or don't, but also I refer you again to Queen Cups Live. Ooh, okay. So we're moving from air to water, which is funny because I was like, I feel like the more I over talk, the more air comes out of my mouth, the less water falls from my eyes. Because we're moving from all that air energy to water. The Knight of Cups is approaching the King of Cups. And then the bottom is the Ten of Cups. Look how gorgeous this is. And this whole reading, this whole almost 4-hour reading, is the reason why I would illustrate the Ten of Swords the way I would illustrate the Ten of Swords. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Oh, and look, there's death on the other side. We got death. And it's the other side of death. And the Ten of Cups. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. So yeah, I can't believe it's been almost 4 hours. Fish are friends, not right. I was like, "Where's your friend? Did you bring your friend?" And he's like, "Oh, I couldn't find a friend." And then the fish skeleton is sticking out the side of his mouth, and he slurps it back in. Oof. The Knight of Cups into the King of Cups with the Ten of Cups, though. That's gorgeous. I love it. Oh, look! The King of Cups has the fish necklace. If it'll focus, will you focus? Focus, 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 focus. Oh, it's focusing, it's focusing. You see the fish? It's a fish necklace. It's a fish necklace. It's interesting, though, that we see opposite sides. But honestly, I would rather see the face of the King of Cups than to see this sad dolphin behind the throne. I don't know. It's day and night. Speaking of that integration between everything that we need, it's like what's below the surface needs to be nourished and taken care of. What's above the surface needs to be nourished and taken care of so that the plants that grow in between can be their best, most vibrant, abundantly productive selves. I had a tamale Friday, and I was going to pull before and after corn because of that tamale I had. Tamales. There we go. So I'm still gonna do it. Talking about whatever I was just talking about that reminded me of corn, but I'm just gonna take this deck as it is, and we're gonna try to find corn because almost 4 hours isn't quite 4 hours. Ooh, this card is at the top of the deck, ain't it? I'm pulling from the bottom, and I still ain't found it. Ooh. So it's between the 5 and the 3. The Beloved and the Arrow. With the Rainmaker and the Gatherer on either side. And that's it. Take with this what you will. I hope you all have a good whatever whenever you see this. I hope you're acting in alignment to make all that you wish to experience your reality. And if you watch this, I hope you find something of resonance and value for you. Because if you don't, oof, that's time you're not going to get back. And I don't apologize. I mean, I can't apologize. You know what I mean? Sorry, I wasted your time. Maybe find somebody that resonates for you. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not. You should definitely find people who resonate for you. But thank you all for being here. This was a journey. I feel like there was some, like, I didn't expect for that dream to work into anything. I didn't expect to have that realization at the end of this that I did, but I guess I'm glad I did. And maybe that's why it's so weird for me, too. Because, like, there are fears that I've had all my life that would be so heavy. Like, I was so afraid I would spiral into a weeks long depression and my life would fall apart, especially when I was in school. I would miss exams, I would miss class and homework, and then I'd fail and fail and fail and fail because of the world after college that I wasn't ready for. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to have an old fear resurface and not carry the weight that it did. I don't know. That's new. I mean, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I don't want. I'm glad to be. And I'm glad to not be depressed right now. I'm glad to not be so triggered that I can't even function, but it is interesting at the same time. You know what I mean? I don't know. This is me and my Saturn return, I guess, as Jupiter and Neptune conjunct and everything else is happening and going on.